Touchdown! What a run in the first touchdown of the 12-team playoff.
This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Anzio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik with a touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Good afternoon. Paul Catalina is out for the next few days. In fact, he'll be back with us on Wednesday of next week in Nashville for his brother-in-law, Rami, getting married. We've talked about weddings during the fall. Rami didn't have much of a choice, but he's a basketball guy as much as he is football, so he's out until Wednesday. Good afternoon. Craig Smoak with me in studio, which is the double sports stack, smokestack, I guess, today on the show. Garrett Ross and Brandon Rowe, and also Andrew Villade, who has put together a bunch of sheets on the table he is at with what 4 items are we going to put on a poll so we can see what Paul's going to have to eat when he's back at Olive Garden for missing the bet against his alma mater. All right. So thank you again for being here. Hit the subscribe button or subscribe to the channel if you have not, and also hit the like button too. This was unique. This came down sometime, I don't know, like in the last hour or so. He has a huge following. He is now part of the Fox Big Noon Kickoff. The Big 12, the story from Ross Dellinger that the Big 12 had been discussing and had a long conversation with Dave Portnoy at Barstool, offering him a, quote, blank canvas of engagement opportunities and emphasizing their full support of integrating Barstool's brand across the league campuses starting this week with Iowa State. Iowa, and then, of course, his response, I cannot confirm or deny, and then at the end, but very excited to work with the Big 12 Conference. Craig?
Yeah, well, it's good to be here and talking some football on a Wednesday, and this was not a headline I expected to be talking about, but here we are talking about Barstool and the Big 12, and seen a lot of strong reactions one way or the other. A lot of people who are just completely put off by the idea because of things that Portnoy's said or done in the past, or things that maybe he's done recently. Just maybe don't like him. I could definitely see that for some people. He's not your cup of tea. And then there's obviously millions of others who love Barstool and love his pizza reviews and all the different personalities and things that come with Barstool. And so, you've got definitely a split opinion. And then I think there's a crowd that's probably an intermixing of both those sides of people that just in general doesn't like to see stuff like this in college sports. Brett Yormark, a bit of a renegade in that he's a businessman and very much was one of the first businessmen to come and jump into a position of power that was notable and widely talked about. Whereas we're used to just, hey, this guy was an athletic director coming up, and then he did this, and then he became a commissioner, and then it's like Brett Yormark came from the business world, and now we've seen that over and over and over again as the sport has evolved. So this is part of, I don't know about the sport evolving, but certainly the Big 12, the WWE partnership has been widely praised, widely criticized, widely mocked, again, depending on what kind of group you're talking about. And I think that's the same for this. So, I've enjoyed seeing the various opinions. Me personally, I enjoy some of the Barstool offerings. I'm mainly When I do see a video or come across something, it's not out of me searching for it. It's just, it comes across my feed. And really the way Twitter's set up now, like they basically force like the same people to you over and over again, the most popular brands. And so there's no avoiding Barstool, even if you tried to, but I see their stuff from time to time. Some of it I enjoy, some of it it's just like bad reality TV. And no matter what we're talking about, that doesn't interest me. So I need to see what this actually is. Like, is it Dave Portnoy? Is it Big Cat? Is it PFT? Is it their main stars? Or are we going to get like the B team, C team of Barstool personalities and get, Joey Muscles or whoever the hell? Well, I think that's probably a guy over there named that or something close to it. I would bet good money there's somebody at least closely named to that. But is it going to be the B team? Because then that's when I think my opinion would change on it. But Portnoy is talking about it, and so that's good that it's at least bringing eyes to the story, and I guess in a roundabout way, eyes to the Big 12. But, yeah, I definitely need more details. On Yormark's part, just looking at it strictly from his position, I totally get it. Like, he's trying to maximize the brand, bring as many eyeballs as possible, make it as cool as he possibly can, and Barstool's definitely for a lot of younger people and middle-aged people, and I'm sure some older crowd as well, a very popular brand. But how much can you really squeeze out of that? And again, what are we talking about that you're doing? Are we going to have guys on the pregame show? Are we going to have just randos jumping in the announce booth? Like, I don't know what this entails. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it, but the devil will be in the details for sure.
Yeah. I don't know what it means either. Some of the guys who have these huge audience, we know what Pat McAfee's done and now Portnoy, a part of Fox. It sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's not something that, okay, that was a waste of my 30 seconds. But I do like the pizza reviews.
That's what everybody says. The one thing everybody agrees on, I think.
And one thing he will do is he'll bring eyeballs and also discussion. And I don't know, but it's a very unique opening story today because that happened earlier this afternoon.
Well, will he, though? He's the star. PFT is the star. Big Cat, those are the stars. There's a few others as well, and they definitely have their own college football presence. Guys like Brandon Walker, who's had a show for a really long time, had all sorts of shows, but they have their college football team and the LSU, what's his name, Garrett? LSU,
T-Bob Hebert.
Yeah, T-Bob Hebert that they hired this past offseason. I couldn't remember his name. So they've invested in college football like a lot of people are doing right now because for as much as people want to decry the loss of tradition and loss of popularity, the popularity doesn't seem like it's really gone anywhere. And now I think you see a lot of people who see dollar signs everywhere they look when it comes to college football and maybe a product that hasn't been fully maximized. And that's also sort of my fear with this is that Dave Portnoy, I feel like, is somebody that would sell off his own child if the money was right. You know what I mean? And so I don't think he cares one iota about the Big 12. I don't think that there's any connection other than like, let's squeeze what we can out of this. And I think with the Yormark era, while there's been some cool stuff and while, I can see where some people kind of side-eye the WWE thing, I'm in a position as a longtime WWE fan where, okay, I see where you're coming from, but I also see where the Big 12's coming from, and so I'm not so bothered by it. It hasn't been like they're doing chair shots in the middle of a game. It's a guy handing you a trophy at the end of a championship. Like, that's been the extent of it, basically. Nothing more or less than that. And just really cross-promotion is all it is. So, to what degree are they getting cross-promotion? Who's involved? And all of that, I think, will be a big detail. But, I don't know how much interest they really have in enhancing the brand or if this is just about money. But Yormark is a guy who's going to try to do everything he can to make the brand as big as possible. So Barstool's about as big as you can get, and that's understandable. At the same time, like I saw with WWE under their new ownership and Endeavor, and there's the connections to Yormark there, obviously. He comes from that kind of world. There is not, going along the lines of what I said about Portnoy, and I say that respectfully. And I think he would admit, what's the price tag for my child? Well, let me think about it. But I think in the Endeavor world, they will sell anything and everything they possibly can. There's not a square inch.
Isn't that their job too, right?
It's their job,
yeah.
But if you're somebody who loves college football and you don't want to see a logo plastered everywhere and you're seeing that, then this is like the exact opposite of that, because if you watch WWE programming since they've taken over, there is not a square inch of anything that doesn't have a sponsor to it. And so we're seeing that more and more in college football. I just wonder, like, to what degree will the Big 12 go to get every dollar they can and get every eyeball that they can? I think this is a smart partnership on the surface, but again, it will all matter when we see what it actually looks like.
All right. Some of you in the chat say you don't really care for him. Some of you say, hey, if it's good for the Big 12, that's fine. And some of you like him and think it will be great.
Yeah, I'm not really the audience at this point, and I never really have been. I just kind of like ships passing in the night. I don't know. I just didn't hit Barstool like a lot of people did when they're teenagers or college years or whatever. And so I've never been like huge into it. But I've had other fandoms that certainly like I think they get a lot of their vibes and some of that from the old Howard Stern show, not like the recent years of Howard Stern, but like the olden days. I get a lot of those kind of vibes, like the Whack Pack and things like that with this. So if we're going to get the main guys talking Big 12 football, T-Bob, and, you know, more focus on their college football stuff, then that's great. But if it's like the lackeys, you know, doing stupid stuff in pregame shows and stuff like that, yeah, I'm not going to be a fan of that. Some people will, but me personally, I won't be. But I don't think what they're seeking out at this point. I'm already locked in. They're looking for the other audience that isn't there yet.
We just talked 8 to 10 minutes about it. So because
it's an interesting story.
It's an interesting story, and that's the bottom line of what Brett Yormark, the commissioner, hopes it also brings to the conference. I saw this, I think this was earlier today, last night, I can't remember. But Chris Kleiman, K-State football coach, K-State, of course, lost the opening game in Dublin, Ireland to Iowa State, and then didn't struggle. They struggled to win last week as well against South Dakota. And the fan base is a little bit grumpy. One, they lost to Iowa State. It's a conference game, too, and they don't like each other. But also, are they utilizing Avery Johnson enough? Though there's a couple of layers here. This is K-State football coach Chris Kleiman on running and where and how with Avery Johnson.
We're August 30th. I don't want to do that with that kid 15 times, 9 times if we don't have to. Maybe we should have, and maybe we should have had a plan for it because we were in such a dogfight. But you got to be careful about making sure that we have this kid for the whole season too. And I think Matt is really wise on that and smart on that. Say, I've probably got to get him more carries, but I'd like those carries to be on the perimeter and not strictly downhill where you're getting tangled up and maybe, you know, he's bigger, he's more durable and stuff. But son of a gun, somebody cuts your legs out and you get an ankle, and all of a sudden now we don't have the mobility. Guys, they made a really good stunt on the second to last play of the game, and they got everybody covered. But they looped out a 3 technique against one of the fastest kids in college football, and that's why we won the game, because he's fresh enough and didn't take a bunch of hits that he was able to outrun that guy and run all the way down to the 5-yard line. And so that's what he's providing us right now when needed, rather than snap it, run QB draw or something.
All right, so that's Chris Kleiman. Ryan Wallace, covers Kansas State, had some of this to say. And this is an agree to disagree. I'm not reading the whole thing because it's large, but I get what Kleiman is saying about reducing the risk, doing it more strategically. But those legs are still the most talented and unique wrinkle that K-State and Avery possess against any defense in America. Kleiman references the strength and conditioning Avery put into during offseason, better prepare his body to withstand the rigors. And then he goes on to this in a comparison. Now, he's not saying Avery Johnson, because the body of work is far from over, is Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels, but because of the kind of runner that he is and even body style that he is, Lamar Jackson had 655 career rushing attempts over 37 games. He had one pedal ankle sprain and also missed no games. Jaden Daniels, 6'4", 200, pretty much the same size as Lamar, a little bit taller, 584 career rushing attempts. He missed he had 2 sprained ankles, 1 concussion, and missed a game and a half. That does not include the COVID year. Avery Johnson, 6'3", 196, pretty much the same size, has 180 career attempts, comparable rushing styles, More carries for the other two. Minimal effect on any injury report. I don't see the reason why Avery shouldn't and can't be a double digits carries per game quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know either, unless you're just hoping the LA Rams get him as healthy as possible, or whoever's going to draft him in a couple of years. And that's not what Kansas State fans care about by any stretch. I mean, want him to go be a successful pro quarterback, but right now, while they have him and he's theirs, they want him to be as much of a dynamic athlete as he can be to help them win games. And clearly he's not fully flexing all of his powers right now for whatever reason. It's kind of like Dave Aranda the other night with Sawyer Robertson of why didn't he run more? Why didn't he run when he clearly had lanes to run? It's like, oh, well, he's not hurt. Okay, well, then why is he not running the ball? So, yeah, so I guess for some guys, they don't want to risk the wear and tear, and some guys don't really have an explanation for why their quarterback didn't take off running in obvious situations. Tomato, but both ways, I think Baylor needs Sawyer Robertson to run more, and I think Kansas State needs to do whatever they can to get on track and be the best football team they can be, not risking the health of Avery Johnson. But, yeah, I don't think you treat him with kid gloves either, so I don't know what the solution is there for them, but that's one of many different things being talked about right now with Kansas State after the first couple of games. They are a team that's very much figuring some things out as we go, and certainly not in a place where you thought they'd be a couple of weeks in. They've been handed some curveballs, losing to Dylan Edwards, for example. But, yeah, they've been out of sorts, and I found it sort of alarming. I brought it up after Ireland and the whole situation with the Johnson family, and I wasn't saying this in any way other than I wondered, but it just felt like something was off with the vibes there in Manhattan. And then Kleiman talks recently after this win where they barely get out alive of how a win's important, and he's right. Like, that's all that matters. You still celebrate the win no matter how it happened, but he starts talking about the newer faces or the younger guys and the disconnect between them and the veterans as far as like K-State football and how you go about doing things. So that just kind of raised a little bit of a red flag. So maybe that's just a maturity thing that you can iron out in these first couple of weeks and then you get over it and you move on. But yeah, Kansas State's looking for a lot of different answers, and you would think one sure bet to get things on track would be to have Avery Johnson running a lot more. But I also understand that you try to keep him healthy because it's week 2. You're not trying to throw 100 carries on this guy in the first month of the season and then wonder late in the year why he's not as physically healthy as he needs to be to help you for a championship run.
Yeah, and so, hey, he's dynamic. Remember some of the other quarterbacks, I don't know the body size of Taylor Martinez when he was at Nebraska. When he first started, no one could stop. He would go 50, 60 yards two or three times a game, and eventually started to take some hits and was not quite as effective, but a dynamic runner and an average at best type passer with Nebraska. Haynes King, different style. He's a banger. Tough guy. He is the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award Player of the Week for his touchdowns, 3 of them in Georgia Tech's win in Boulder against the Buffaloes and Deion Sanders, including the game-winning touchdown late in the game with 1:07 to go. Haynes King, the first of the year. Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award Player of the Week.
He had a really good game, very tough, very much still a running quarterback as the passing stats were pretty average. But yeah, running is where he got his damage done, much like last year. And he's a fun player to watch. He is definitely kind of an old school type of guy of just the running quarterback, tough as nails, and leaving it all out in the field and all those cliches. I know there's a lot of other guys you could say that about, but Haynes King just really is kind of the personification. It's like, he didn't leave anything, but his 100% out there, no matter what kind of pain he was going through like last year. But it was a really nice win for Georgia Tech. I mean, they ran all over Colorado and made them like it, and he was running more than anybody. So very worthy of this honor. A lot of other good candidates. I mean, Jackson Arnold had a nice performance for Auburn. John Mateer had a massive, day for Oklahoma in his debut. And Jordan Tyson at Arizona State had a really nice day. This award for guys from the state of Texas. So just filling in the blank there for wondering why I'm just spouting out random names, what connection they have. They're from Texas. But, Kawan Lacey out at Ole Miss, 3 touchdown day for him, young man from Lancaster High School. So a lot of big-time performances in week 1, especially from the quarterbacks. But Haynes King, especially the attention placed on that game as well. Even though Colorado's not a ranked team or anything, it's just it's a big game to start the year, and he was a massive piece in that win. So good for him.
All right. Also, I saw this, and I'm thinking, when I saw it, you see lawsuits in the NCAA and eligibility, and you're like, oh my God. I saw this one, and I'm like, wait a minute. I think this is what the NCAA would like. Vanderbilt had a couple of players, Langston Patterson and Issa Quatara, a class action lawsuit challenging against the NCAA's redshirt rule. Basically, what they want to be able to do is have 5 years to play. However, allow athletes only 4 years of participation, which is the rule. Over 5 years, they're saying let them play 5 years. That does not include the redshirt year. I would think the way everything's been going on with all of the different eligibility, et cetera, the NCAA maybe takes this one and walks out the door and says this is fine. They want to get all 5 years to compete there or complete their eligibility. And so this is the latest lawsuit with Vanderbilt and a couple of players.
Yeah, I love not talking about these types of stories there for a couple of days, but these things still need to be taken care of. So another lawsuit. Yay. Good for the lawyers. Congrats on your billable hours. And I'll wait for the conclusion and the resolution of this, hopefully sooner rather than later. But Vanderbilt, amongst the 10 players, linebacker Langston Patterson, defensive lineman Issa Quatara, part of that lawsuit, and not aiming to completely remove eligibility, but believe they should be able to compete in games for all 5 years that they're allowed to be on the team. So that's what they believe. We'll see what the courts believe. I believe that college football, where people just stick around for years on end, is not really college football. It just becomes truly the semi-pros, and there's already a lot of signs of that happening anyways. But I will tell you what will pull my fandom card is 5 years from now, we're watching seventh-year linebackers, not because there was another COVID outbreak or something like that disrupted the world, but because they lost a lawsuit and now guys just never graduate. That will take my interest completely out of this sport. I have absolutely zero desire to see some 28-year-old linebacker out there playing with a 20-year-old quarterback. I will just watch the NFL. And if I want to watch the young prepsters, then I'll watch some high school games, I guess. I'd rather do that and have it still be somewhat what I loved about it, rather than some mutated semi-pro league where nothing matters and there are no rules, basically. So yeah, I'm team NCAA on this. I say, and I get that they're just trying to maximize their 5 years. This may be the way that it goes, because the NCAA, one of the solutions is to give your 5 years, and however you take that up, you take that up, but you don't get anything past that. So are they actually talking about sort of the same thing here? Then maybe there's not really a need for a lawsuit, and you can just come to an agreement where the NCAA passes that rule. But I don't know all the legalities involved in doing something like this, but I would be fine with, you get 5 years, fill it up however you want to. So in this case, I think that's what they're going for. But after that, you got to go. Like you've got to go and go, graduate school or the NFL or wherever. But yeah, we don't need like endless eligibility like Diego Pavia, I think, is on the search for.
Hey, who knows how this ends up, whether there's any kind of agreement or not. But I would have no problem with, once you start your clock, I don't give a damn what level you're at, whatever it's the NAIA or NCAA or whatever, you have 5 years to play.
Yeah,
you want to play 5? That's fine. But don't then come back and say, no, we need to have 6. Then you wonder about the hardship issues, and you wonder about the injuries, and does that tack onto it, or is that 1 through 5 years no matter what you deal with?
Yeah, and that's all it's saying, is that you want your 5 years and you want to be able to play all 5 years, but it's not asking for anything more than that. So I think that's a reasonable solution. The record books are totally trash anyways. You can't even claim proper national champions in this sport going back to certain decades. So it's all a mess regardless. And the last few years have totally destroyed actual record books when guys in their 7th year are breaking the records of guys who played 4. It's all just sort of silly anyways. So sure, play 5 years and stack those stats and hopefully leave better for it. But not so much of an issue with that. I just more or less see lawsuit and roll my eyes. And I do know there will be somebody inevitably out there who's, saying why only 5, and that's where I draw the line and say no. This still needs to have some limitations on it, or else it's just might as well just start calling it the USFL.
Taylor McCarg of ESPN and CBS will join us here in just a moment on games that he has this week, but also what he saw from week number 1. Let's take the A.J. McCarron story later, okay? So we'll push that one back. G.J. Kenny, Jeff Traylor, really good game. Coming up this weekend, it is Texas State, what they've done, and then UTSA lost to A&M and what they've done. G.J. Kenny on how he doesn't quite understand why this game doesn't have maybe or won't have as much exposure on the network it's on.
Crazy to me this game's not on ESPN 1. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you not put this game on ESPN 1? It's going to be the best G5 game of the year, maybe. I hope, at least. Those guys are good. But, as far as rivalries and the dynamics and the back and forth the last 2 years, like, that kind of blows my mind.
All right, there he is, G.J. Kenny, who's done a great job at Texas State against his good friend who coached him in high school, in Jeff Traylor, on why that game doesn't get much more of a spotlight coming up this weekend. Couple of scheduling notes, and then we break for Taylor McCarg. Allegiant Stadium in Vegas is going to host BYU and Oregon State in 2028. That also Arkansas, Texas Tech in 2030. And then on top of that, remember, they'll have the 2026 College Football Championship game, and they already have Miami and Utah in 2027. So they're about to have games at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas.
This is a cool opportunity. I mean, they've definitely met up with Arkansas plenty of times to make this, not really a full-fledged rivalry, but enough familiarity to harken back to days of yesteryear and to have a little personal beef between the two of you. And there's the SEC Big 12 factor in this as well. So, that's a spicy little game that could be a lot of fun. The Vegas part of it, I guess it just depends on who you are. Do you like the trip, or do you complain about the fact that that's one less home game that you would have had otherwise? And Look, for the people that complain about the home game thing, that's very legitimate gripe. You pay for season tickets and you want to be able to watch the best come play at your stadium. It gets really old when, like, you sign up for season tickets and every big game is suddenly in Vegas or in Atlanta or in New Orleans, and you got to travel. Like, hey, I have an idea. How about somebody really good come to Lubbock and play?
Right.
Now, they've had that recently. They've had a series with Oregon here recently. They've had series with various others. They've obviously got their arrangements with the Pac-2 here of late. But I think for the people who want to see Arkansas come to Lubbock, this is maybe a disappointment. But outside of that, this is a cool little setup. And I think looking at Texas Tech's schedule in the future years, that they needed to add a little spice to the mix. And so I think Arkansas applies really well there and is also close enough to make it a little bit more personal than just the random, kind of like Baylor-Auburn, like a really great game, not complaining about it, but there wasn't like any history there whatsoever. So
now there is, yeah.
Well, now there's a little bit, yeah. So maybe they'll reconnect in the future. But, Tech and Arkansas, I like that matchup. And being out in Las Vegas will certainly be appetizing for a lot of people, in BYU, Oregon State as well. That's a nice matchup for, I think, Oregon State to have a power opponent on their schedule, and for BYU to get a little taste of the old Pac teams after the last few years is going to have a little spice on that one as well, I'm sure. So, I think I'm all for adding name programs to your schedule. So good on BYU and Tech for doing so.
Kim Coulter, Katie Rader, all of you not allowed to be in the city limits of Las Vegas during that week. Also, pretty neat note from BYU fans from Jayhawk Champ. BYU fans in Las Vegas messes with my mind.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of experience here, though. It is kind of funny. I mean, that's exactly what we could have gotten into as well with the Barstool thing, though, is that everybody started saying, well, what about Baylor and what about TCU and what about BYU? And it's like, please, they probably have more Barstool people signed up than anybody, those schools. I mean, honestly, but I don't think that's going to be much of an issue raised, and I don't think it will be, although it is funny to think about that aspect of BYU into Las Vegas. That's good, though. I want to see as many good games as possible. I think Arkansas Tech ought to be I don't know what Arkansas will look like at that point. I'd imagine Joey McGuire has hopefully had some success over the next few years. And who knows what the hell Tech looks like with all of their backing and maybe the wins that follow. I mean, they might be a freaking juggernaut by 2030. Arkansas, I don't know how much movement they'll really have. BYU could also be a juggernaut by 2028, even though that's just a couple of years away now at this point, but they're set up really well for the future. Best position they've ever been in. I do worry about Oregon State. I've said this before with them and Wazoo, and I think all you have to do is look at last weekend and see how dangerously close to disaster that was for those two teams. But I wonder about the drop-off in talent eventually for them, and I think maybe you're already starting to see it. I'm not quite sure. We'll see when Tech plays Oregon State here pretty soon, but they are in a different space, and it's not quite what it was. And so I don't know what Oregon State looks like here in a couple of years from now, but I know BYU will be plenty strong.
Taylor, who's going to join us after the break, he has Arkansas this week, and so we'll have him on the show here momentarily. One quick note, Baylor has added Incarnate Word, one of the highest-ranked FCS schools. Incarnate Word will be a part of their schedule in 2027, so their next 3 years with Oregon, the big name game next year, Auburn, next year, and then they have Oregon in back-to-back years coming up after that. All right, when we come back, Taylor McCarg, his thoughts about the quarterback play around the country, what he saw, what he didn't like, what he thought was great. We'll have him. Also, Pat Smith, three-man front on what's it like as the crumbling and ashes in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. Plus, we'll also hear from Zach Gelb, Infinity Sports Network, who's doing his national show now. This is 365 Sports. I got this email, as we were going on the air today, from my good friend, Dr. Kent Petty. They are celebrating 10 years in men's health care. 10 years. He opened up the doors in 10 years, and his business has been absolutely fantastic. Our success, he wants to, of course, credit his belief in God, but also says meeting a lot of other people. Instrumental in ability to gain interest from men locally. Rudy, our amazing journey getting the word out. I've been endorsing him since his doors opened 10 years ago. On Friday of this week, pettycliniclowt.com will have door prizes, gift cards to Lowe's and Home Depot. 2 drawings for 2 DeWalt tool sets. 10 winners for $150 credit each towards men's health services to our clinic, and a grand prize of a Traeger pellet grill Pro Series 34 with rain cover. PettyClinicLowT.com can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf car batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Drive the Motor Trend Truck of the Year during the Make This the Summer event at Ellen Samuels in Waco. Get a new award-winning Ram half-ton Laramie Crew Cab with $15,000 off plus 3.9% for $72, or grab a new Ram Lone Star Crew Cab, $11,000 off MSRP plus 3.9 for $72. Plus, Toyota, Ford, and GM owners get an additional $1,500 in savings right now. Ellen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Summer's heating up, but Bird Culture Ford is freezing the prices.
Right now, get 0% APR for 48 months, 0 down, and no payments for 90 days.
Cool off with us in our freezing showroom and catch a hot deal before summer's over.
Whether it's an F-150, Explorer, or Escape, we've got the perfect deal waiting for you.
Whew. Texas weather can be crazy. Shop anytime inside our showroom or at bkford.com. Experience better at Burr Coaching Ford.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Taylor McCart, CBS and ESPN with us on 365 Sports. Get to see him now. He's traveling, of course, going to a lot of meetings, does the Big 12 show with Pete. Arkansas and Arkansas State coming up this Saturday afternoon. Let's talk about Green, the quarterback at Arkansas. Very impressive in his opening week game. We kind of expected that, maybe even more upside, but your thoughts about how he played his opening game and a lot of experience from a year ago.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, dynamic player. He's, I think, bigger than people realize. And one of the things on film that really stands out is, man, when he takes off to run, he's not looking to get out of bounds. There were a couple plays in that game where he's running right through a defender. It's actually something that we're going to make sure we ask Coach about or later this week. Is, do you want him getting down? Do you want him getting out of bounds? Because there was a couple shots that he took that you wonder if staff's probably not fired up about. But threw for 6 touchdowns, was fantastic. It was a game that they expected to. They were heavy favorites against Alabama A&M, and they lived up to that. There were some spots on the defensive side that I know they've already talked about wanting to clean up. And I think they'll be obviously heavy favorites again this week against Arkansas State. What's most interesting, 2 things. Number one, they've never played before, which is crazy. 200 plus years of football between the 2 programs. They've never played. And 2, this is the last meeting or the last game that's scheduled right now at War Memorial Stadium in Little Rock. So it's going to be, there's some storylines there for the state of Arkansas. I'm excited. I've not done an Arkansas game before. And so looking forward to getting up to Little Rock on Friday morning.
Yeah, I never would have guessed as an outsider that they had not played before. That is wild to know that they hadn't played. So that's very cool. They're finally getting together. So I looked at your Twitter timeline just to see if maybe there was any like hot takes, Taylor. And there's plenty that we can just poke out of thin air like from last weekend to talk about. But I looked at it to see if there's anything that like I have to ask you about. And like right away I'm slapped with a tweet about Utah that I definitely want to ask you about. The AP poll came out, and Utah, after a very impressive win over UCLA, comes in at number 25. And you said Utah is far too low. That is a top 15 team. So you were impressed by what you saw from Devin Dampier and company the other night, I guess.
Yeah, Dampier was fantastic. I think it's got to start with their offensive line, though. There's 2 guys on that front. Spencer Fano, I think, gets a lot of the attention, but that offensive line is the best in the Big 12, and it's a top 5 unit in the country. They're unbelievable. And I thought the way that they beat UCLA, I was on the West Coast. I stayed up and watched every snap of that game. I think Utah is punished for 2 things. Number one, the preseason rankings, they weren't ranked. And number 2, they were in an 11 Eastern time slot. And I don't think a lot of people that are voters watch their game. And if you did watch it and you watched how they played in the trenches, they could have put 60 on UCLA. They were dominant. It wasn't just that they were the better team. They were the better team in all 3 phases, and how they played at the line of scrimmage, I thought was really telling. And in the Big 12, when I think about teams like Kansas State and Baylor and how they look through the first part of the season and how they look in the interior, those are the things that when you start to think about what are championship quality teams and teams that can make a run in the playoffs, I think Iowa State right now and Utah are the cream of the crop. And Utah, if they didn't play in a late night TV slot, I think they're in the top 20. But we'll see. They've got a big one coming up in 3 weeks where Texas Tech goes to Utah. They'll get some eyeballs on them soon. But I was extremely impressed with them Saturday night.
How many teams in the Big 12 do you personally believe are top 25 caliber through the first week and a half or 2 weeks?
I would say 4 right now for sure: Utah, TCU, Texas Tech, and Iowa State. I think when you get beyond those 4 teams, I think Baylor, they showed a lot on offense, but defense obviously struggled. I think they're deservedly on the outside looking in. Kansas State, gosh, they were a 2-minute drive away from their season might have been over if they had lost that game. And so I think they've got to be on the outside looking in. And then beyond that, it's all teams that really haven't been tested yet. I think Kansas has the potential. If they go beat Missouri on the road this week, that's a top 25 team. And Jalen Daniels has looked fantastic through the first 2 weeks, but it was against Wagner and Fresno State. So we'll find out more about Kansas. And then after that, it's a bunch of wait and sees. I mean, Houston played Stephen F. Austin. They looked fine. And then you get, into the UCFs and Oklahoma States of the world and West Virginia that all played FCS teams, and it's too soon to tell. But I would say those 4 right now deserve to be ranked.
Did you say Arizona State? I don't know if I...
No, I didn't. Oh, my gosh. No, I didn't. There's too many teams in this league.
There is, yes.
There is, and you're right. That's why I wanted to make sure I just in case.
God.
I didn't want you to
get killed for that. No, they absolutely. So there's 5 teams then.
Yeah.
And they played well against Northern Arizona. I thought Sam Levitt looked good. Some things on the defensive side that I know it was interesting here, and their staff talked about maybe they felt like they got outcoached by Northern Arizona. But no, Smokey, you're exactly right. Thank you for fact checking me on that. Because
I didn't want you to get hammered
absolutely
on Twitter.
No, I'm going to get hammered on it either way now. For leaving them out. But yeah, it's too many stinking teams in this league.
Yeah, there really is. It does cause you to forget about some things from time to time. When it came down to that Baylor-Auburn game, I mean, Sawyer Robertson played really well. I think the big question was why he maybe didn't run more. And we're seeing that with questions about K-State and Avery Johnson and kind of Taylor. Where do you come from when it boils down to the running quarterbacks or the guys who are able to run? But it's early in the year. You're not trying to throw 25 carries on these guys, right? But you're also trying to win football games. So, how do those conversations sort of happen, and where do you stand on trying to make sure a guy stays healthy, but also trying to make sure you win football games? How fine a line is that?
Yeah, I think it just depends on, from a matchup standpoint, week to week, what do you need to do to win the game? And I go back to Kansas State in their week 0 game in Dublin. Dylan Edwards goes down, and it didn't really increase the carries for Avery Johnson. I thought that was interesting. For Sawyer Robertson, look, you guys know probably better than I do from watching that game and being around that program. Sawyer Robertson was not the problem last Friday. He threw for 400 and whatever yards. I think they figured out ways to move the ball on what I think will end up being certainly a top half of the SEC defense. That game came down to not being able to stop Jackson Arnold between the tackles. And I thought as soon as Auburn figured out that they could run any combination of their QB power, stretch zone, anything that had Jackson Arnold running downhill, and Baylor couldn't stop it. And on critical downs when they needed to get off the field, it was almost like you could watch them spread out, lighten up the box, and then you knew Jackson Arnold was going to run right at them, and they couldn't stop it. And I think Baylor, for the rest of the season, anytime they face a mobile quarterback, think about this week with Kevin Jennings at SMU, you're probably going to get more of that for Baylor. I think also, big thing for Baylor fans, this season's not over, sky is not falling. And there's a huge opportunity this week in a game that they're very evenly matched against SMU. If they can get out of Dallas with a win, this is still a team that you're talking about being in the mix, not just for the Big 12, which they haven't even started league play, but a win over SMU and a relatively close loss against Auburn. You're still right there when you talk about at-large playoff potential down the line, assuming they play well in conference play.
We had not Chris Kleiman live with us, but there was an audio clip from him talking about how they use Avery Johnson and how he doesn't want to bury him physically early, but he doesn't have he doesn't get a lot of running plays right now. What are your thoughts about how they use him, and should they use him more often?
Well, I thought through the first 2 weeks, Avery Johnson's played great. And against Iowa State, he did a much better job than he did as a freshman of taking what the defense gave him. He was pretty patient against Iowa State. And then last week against North Dakota, I mean, he's the biggest reason why they ended up coming back to win that game. Defensive issues for Kansas State, I think, were that's how that game ended up being as close as it was, and them having to come from behind late. But I agree, and I can understand Coach saying that they're trying to take shots off of him, and you see that in the play calling right now. There's not a lot of design quarterback run game. And if you remember a year ago, Avery Johnson did get banged up in that Colorado game. And I think it impacted him for a number of weeks, even after he came back. And so Colorado, Kansas State knows what they have in a former 5-star recruit, and he's everything to this program and trying to keep him healthy. But I wouldn't be surprised as the season goes along and they move into these, more critical games. And if it's a close game, especially if there's more designed quarterback run game, and you do take the risk of him taking those shots.
We're talking about the amount of teams earlier, Taylor, and it's like, man, I can't ask you about all 16 quarterbacks. And then there's also like the national stuff as well. It's just like, what can we ask you about? So I know you can't absorb it all, but did you happen to get eyes on Caden Salter in Colorado at all this past weekend?
Yeah, I thought, well, if Georgia Tech doesn't have 3 first-quarter turnovers, then that game's not that close. I thought Caden Salter played average. I thought there were some throws there that he missed. I thought he held the ball too long in a couple instances. And then there were some other plays that he made, out of broken plays where he showed that he's a dynamic athlete. It looks like now they're going to open it up, and Julian Lewis will play this week against, I believe it's Delaware. And I think this is a good opportunity for them to work through both quarterbacks in a game that they should win convincingly. But I thought overall it wasn't a poor performance, but it certainly wasn't. Out of all the great quarterback play we saw this week in the league, I would say he was somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Taylor McCarg with us, CBS and also ESPN on 365 Sports. What were your thoughts about some of the games, the bangers, as I call them, over the weekend, the quarterback play from Cade Klubnik to Nussmeier to Arch Manning to Sayin, those 4, some hit and miss, some of them maybe not what we all expected. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I know everybody in the country's got an opinion on Arch Manning. I think a couple of things. I think he was very clearly rattled. I think the first indicator for quarterbacks, if they are falling away from their throws as the ball is coming out, if their body's working away from the line of scrimmage, that is the number one indicator that a quarterback is not comfortable. And you saw that from the first play of the game all the way through that final drive, 2nd and 3rd down. Those are easy completions that he's not stepping in. He's kind of throwing from a sidearm slot. And I expect that to improve, because we did not see that last year against teams like, and I get it was UTSA and Mississippi State and teams that they rolled, but I think that moment, it clearly got to him, and that defense that they were playing is going to be a top 5 unit all year, maybe the best unit outside of Texas defense. I thought Julian Sayin played fine. They didn't ask him to do much. He didn't need to do much, but he certainly wasn't a world beater. And then in the other major matchup, and I'm going to throw Notre Dame and Miami in there as well, I thought Nussmeier played well. I think he's going to end up being a top 10 potential 1 overall kind of pick. He is a pro level 1st-round caliber talent. And I thought he showed me a lot in not doing anything to get them beat, because that's a good front that Clemson had as well. And then for Klubnik, he's getting crushed right now, but go back and look at the pressure rate that LSU had on Clemson. I mean, I think it was somewhere around a third of his dropbacks. He had somebody in his lap in under 2 seconds, meaning there's like a free rusher or they're getting pressure immediately. So I think Klubnik will play better. I think there was certainly some throws he missed. And then the last game, CJ Carr, I thought of all the young guys, I thought he played well. And Carson Beck, if we look at just a theme overall for college football, I think how important is it that having a veteran quarterback that's played significant snaps. I thought Carson Beck is the best example of that. He had a couple throws, obviously the one-handed catch where he got maybe a little lucky, but I thought he was a great example of, look at a veteran compared to a lot of these young guys that are struggling. But overall, you had bright spots for a number of guys. And then, the last one that I'll throw in there, Josh Hoover against North Carolina. I thought he played fantastic.
Yeah.
Had one throw on the screen that got away from him for the interception. But other than that, he looked great.
Craig, say the California quarterback's name for me again.
You should have had me have my pronunciation guide out when I tried to do that, but he was awesome. And I don't mean to I'm going to have his name down, just like I eventually got Nico Iamaleava eventually. But yeah, it's going to take some practice because it's a little bit longer of a name. But Jaron was great. Taylor, I don't know if you got to see the Cal game or not, but he was awesome. There was some good quarterback play around the country this week.
Yeah, he did look good, and that was a bit of a surprise, I think, to a lot of people. And I thought this wasn't like he was throwing to wide open windows, right? There were some spots where he was fitting the ball in nicely with timing, and especially as a young guy, you don't always get that. And so I thought that was certainly a bright spot. And for a Cal team that coming into the season, I think their win total was like 3.5 or 4. I think that's a team that we should expect to exceed expectations just based on if they can keep him healthy and he plays half as good as that all season, they may have found a guy. And for sure.
I did not know that the game this Saturday, is it the last scheduled game, as you're saying, at War Memorial Stadium?
Yeah, they don't have any others on the schedule right now. And they asked Coach about that in his presser on Monday. And he was very transparent about, I don't know that there's a benefit for us for the Razorbacks driving up to Little Rock. It's closer for, they used to play Mississippi State there. It's closer for State. It's closer for Arkansas State than it is for them. And I think there's some validity to that. But it also, from everything I've heard, for fans in the state of Arkansas, this allows a lot of people that maybe can't travel or don't travel 3 hours each week to Fayetteville, a little different opportunity. And we were looking at the crowd. They're expecting a sellout for this game. It should be a great atmosphere. And but for now, there is not another game on the calendar in Little Rock.
All right. Hey, man, good luck with your broadcast, Taylor. Thank you so much for your time. Taylor McCarg, busy schedule with broadcast and all of what he does. War Memorial Stadium, golly, there's some great memories there. It's almost like Alabama, remember, used to play at Bryant-Denny in Tuscaloosa, but then also had Legion Field in Birmingham where they would play Auburn. A lot of times they thought that was as a neutral site where they played games there too. All right, let's do this. Brandon, a couple of those uniform notes on Penn State. Let's do that one. And then also there's the other one on Idaho, and their helmets. So Penn State, we're seeing this switching from Nike to Adidas. The school's apparel provider, pending approval from the school board. Brett McMurphy with that note. The Penn State Nittany Lions from Nike to Adidas. Craig?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting move for Penn State. I wonder if they're going to allow Adidas to have creative freedom, because that would be freaking hilarious of what they would come up with had Penn State allowed it. But we saw Tennessee get this sweetheart of a deal to return to Adidas, and the Three Stripes clearly trying to make some inroads into college football right now, getting a couple of the biggest brands that you could possibly get with massive fan bases. So I'm not the biggest fan a lot of times of Adidas's uniforms. I do think there are some that A&M has worn, for example, that are pretty solid. Texas Tech, I can't forget about them before they start going crazy in the chat. They obviously have linked up with Adidas in recent years as well, and the Mahomes connection and all of that jazz. So, yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of life in that brand right now, in large part to a guy like a Mahomes, and they're picking up programs left and right. So, I mean, Tennessee, Penn State, Texas Tech, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some or unaware of some. They're putting together a nice little portfolio here of late, and you just hope they can, maintain the pristine Penn State uniform tradition. I mean, all you got to do is take it and just slap your logo over the swoosh. I mean, don't touch it other than that. But it would be kind of funny to see if they let Adidas loose and come up with something kind of wonky. I doubt that will happen, though. And I'm sure it's probably a lot of similar, or it's probably a lot of what we saw with the Tennessee deal as far as big money and the ability to have your creative freedom and to have a big say in all the ins and outs of that partnership. So I'm assuming that because that would just be the smart thing to do. And I think Tennessee has sort of helped set that precedent, especially for schools that sign with Adidas from here on out. So, that's definitely interesting to see another one move over to the Three Stripes.
Yeah, they have the Nike swoosh just above. It's on the left chest. And so, just replace it with Adidas and don't mess with what has been around for a long time.
That's wild. I mean, they've been with Nike for a really long time. So to see them not in Nike is maybe not something that'll be super noticeable, but just feels a little strange for sure.
I'm looking at one here that the Nike swoosh is above, I think this is a Micah Parsons, just above the number 11 on the left one. And then at times up on the shoulder pad around the neck collar is where it's been too.
If you'll remember that Tennessee deal, a lot of it has NIL built into the deal as far as partnerships and things like that. So I would imagine that, for example, a Nick Singleton, if he hung around, or a Drew Aller or somebody like that, they'd be Adidas athletes or something along those lines. I think with Tennessee in particular, you're going to see these partnerships sort of expanded, especially for the bigger schools, and have that NIL component. So without knowing the dirty details, I would think that's definitely a part of the appeal here for Penn State and making that move.
All right, one more note. Paul had this yesterday, but we didn't get to it. Idaho is going to have the Fighting Taters on the side of their helmet. Idaho Fighting Taters for the home opener against St. Thomas. Idaho Potato Commission, the game sponsor, bringing its 70-foot-long big potato truck. And Spuddy Buddy, the commissioner's mascot, will also be there.
Spuddy Buddy, huh? Spuddy Buddy. Okay, well, that's catchy. All right, yeah, I mean, the Fighting Taters, that's fun. Good for them. They're getting a lot of play for it, apparently, because I've seen this sort of floating around, and you don't get a whole lot of Idaho football talk really floating around in the accounts that I follow. So, yeah, it's from a marketing standpoint already paying off, and I'm sure they'll get a bunch more play once they sport those in the game. But, yeah, I like the uniqueness. That's very college football of them. And script helmets are very, very popular right now, dating back to the last couple of years. So Fighting Tater script helmet is certainly unique in its own way.
When we come back, we will have the college football picks, which means whatever I say will go the opposite way. Paul left his before he left on a vacation. Craig and I will have our picks of 5 games. And then later in the show, Craig will have his Big 12 Mojo rankings that will dissect, in fact, what it all means between the top of the hour and also Pat Smith on three-man front joining us at 4:25. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco after a crunch of about, 6 to 8, 10, 12 days with the concert they had and then the game on Friday, Auburn in their win against Baylor 38-24. And, of course, it's a membership with great food, amenities, and more. The views, if you can have a luncheon, a dinner, a banquet, whatever it might be, a business meeting overlooking the Brazos River and also I-35. And then, of course, the suites inside that look out towards the stadium. The Baylor Club will sometime soon. I haven't had one in a couple of weeks. They've been trying to get themselves ready. They renovated a little bit inside the stadium on the various floors, but they will have one of these tasting type events soon. And then also a chance for you to like and get to know some of the great food that the cuisine that the chefs do come up with for lunch and or dinner. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990, or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling. And wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
365 Sports, we appreciate your time. We will take you up until 6 o'clock. We've done and been through most of the headlines for the day. We probably need to go back and discuss a couple of more of them again, including some jersey stuff, helmet stuff, some scheduling, and then, of course, looking at some of the teams that have played and either didn't do very well or like, for example, the story about Haynes King at Georgia Tech, the Campbell Weekly winner for his performance against Colorado. This is the segment in which we all make ourselves even look worse than we are as predictors. I was 0-5 last week. I look back at the games that I picked. There was one dumb decision, but picking Clemson against LSU or picking Texas and Ohio State, bang games, that's what we call them, bangers. But here we go with this one. Michigan at Oklahoma, the game's in Norman. If it was in Ann Arbor, I would take Oklahoma. I know Mateer wasn't like spectacular, but he was good. I wonder about Oklahoma and running the football because they're about to go against a team in Michigan. The game coming up, I take Oklahoma. That's why they are highlighted in fact with that graphic. Number 2, KU and Missouri. Man, I thought about this. I like what I've seen from Kansas. I also thought Missouri was very impressive. They now feel like they have their quarterback. The game is in Columbia. Old school rivalry here from back in the days of the Big 8. And I take Missouri. And I hope I'm wrong because I like Lance Leipold so much. Nothing against Eli Drinkwitz. Iowa and Iowa State. Iowa State got them last year. And really over the last several years, Iowa's just been better. They're a better football program. That's not the case anymore. So we have Iowa and Iowa State. And I take the Cyclones. I like everything I've seen about them. The win on the road, literally against K-State, and I thought they were very impressive in what they should have done, and they did in their win last weekend. Then there's Illinois and Duke, and it's just like these two logos. They don't even fit on the same screen. Hell of a basketball game. Might be a hell of a football game. Brett Bielema and the Fighting Illini, they're just solid. Sometimes they're not all that like highlight, but they're good. And I do take the Illini to win this game against Duke. And then there's Baylor and SMU. SMU's the favorite in this game. I think by like maybe a field goal or so. Baylor, did they get better because they played a better team and lost in the opening game? That doesn't improve your defensive line over 5 or 6 or 7 days. The games at SMU, Baylor's got a lot of alums, but that's not like that. That game, that should be a pretty crowded stadium. It's not always sold out. They don't like each other, these two schools. But I'll take Baylor after the loss. I think that they will tweak a couple of things, and I think that they'll probably outscore SMU and win. So those are my 5 picks: Oklahoma, Missouri, Iowa State, Illinois, and Baylor.
Alrighty, man, depending on last week, you're either going to be a genius or I'm going to be right in the same boat with you.
Well, you don't want to be in my boat. It's got holes in it.
Well, I was able to plug a couple of them. I still finished under 500. I would love to know, for the people that aren't just randomly throwing darts at games, of which we're not far off from that probably, actually. But
I would have done better doing that last year.
Well, I mean, yeah, odds are you would have hit the board at least one time. Yeah, probably. I mean, I only hit it a couple of times, and I actually felt great about that because Notre Dame was about to make me feel really stupid, and then Miami luckily gave me a second win. But, yeah, that was tough picking last week, and I was saying I would love to know kind of the general consensus each week of just like where the nation sort of stands. And I guess we get that with the spreads and whatnot, but how many of like the general fan votes were wrong about the majority of those games last week?
Oh, I would think
the Clemson one probably for sure.
I think it's for sure they were wrong about Texas and Ohio State. I bet 65% of the country had Texas winning that game.
I don't know. We're in the state of Texas, so I wonder if maybe we lived out in like Oregon if it was still so pro Texas.
You're right, and it's the same thing with the Cowboys, but UT has that kind of that national brand, like people just always say, okay, it's a big game, Cowboys are going to win. And a lot of times they have not done so.
Yeah, and I get that, but I would counter with Ohio State's just as big of a brand, and they are the Cowboys in the Midwest. And so they're not like, Texas fill in the blank university or something like that. So I think you're choosing between the same thing really when you're talking about the weight of the logos, but there was a lot more love for Arch than there was for Julian Sayin, and so I think the majority probably did pick Texas, but that might have been a little bit closer. So yeah, I think point being that most people probably got a lot of those games wrong, and then kudos to those who crushed it and went like 4-1 or 5-0 with those games. The beauty is actually in not being right, because that's part of the fun, is having these curveballs thrown your way, although eventually you need to be right if you're banking on getting banked for it all. Thankfully, I'm not too worried about that for the picking purposes. So with all that said, let's see if I can do better than 2 and 3. I am going homer pick, going with the Oklahoma Sooners at home in Norman. And this is an awesome monster matchup, especially on the heels of Ohio State and Texas, to get just this configuration of games where these two historic rivalries are crossing over in back-to-back weeks is really cool. Massive Big Ten SEC matchup as well, with a lot of huge implications. And I actually struggled quite a bit with this. There was a time even earlier this morning where I started to believe in the Bryce Underwood hype and wondered if it was going to roll me into flipping my pick. But I'm going to stick with Johnny Football. Is that sacrilege to say that?
Yeah, I think it is.
I think it is too. So I'm not going to use that anymore.
And I don't know. I mean, Matera was a gambler, right?
And I don't want to put any of the old Manziel stink on him, just in case. But Johnny's doing well now, I think.
Would you take a Manziel year from him, even if he became a knucklehead?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
of course.
What if he? Well, first of all, was he going to get paid for signing autographs and it'd be totally legal this time around?
Yep.
Now the substance abuse.
Yeah.
I don't really wish that for him. So that's a really difficult question to ask somebody. Would you trade John Mateer's substance abuse issues for a win over Michigan?
No. I know you're going to. Would you take all the knucklehead and sometimes wacky stuff? I would take a Johnny Manziel. It doesn't matter what he was doing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and I'm joking, but there was a lot of baggage that came with Johnny as well. But that year was unlike any year that really is. It's not really comparable to a lot of things, honestly, but I liked what I saw from Oklahoma last week. I'm very curious about the offensive line and how it holds up against Michigan, because it was not all that impressive. The running game never got going. And I know that, for example, Jaden Knott's not playing right now, but it wasn't a matter of, they just needed a better running back in there. He certainly could help, but I do have major concerns about OU up front. But I do love Mateer and the X factor that he brings both in the air and on the ground. It's going to be much tougher sledding this week against Michigan, but I'm defaulting to him versus the dynamic young quarterback in Bryce Underwood. I don't think you have to be a veteran quarterback to win big-time college football games, and it's not just all about the quarterback, but when I'm kind of trying to have a hard time in even picking the game, I'm going to default to whatever I can to kind of tip me one way. And I like Mateer's experience and the X factor he brings versus Bryce Underwood, who's still getting his feet wet a little bit. But this is an epic clash, both really, really good defenses. So I think it's going to be a struggle for both quarterbacks, but Mateer just a little bit more, I think, juice right now. And so I'm going to pick him and the Sooners to win this game in Norman. The following game, the Border War. Sorry, Jayhawks fans. I really struggle with this one as well. Home field came into play a little bit here, and just the sort of recruiting factor that we touched on a little bit with Auburn and Baylor last week as well, of like when it's all sort of looking even. And in the case, I know I just talked about an experienced quarterback. So why are you going to pick Bo Pribula over Jalen Daniels? Well, because I'm not quite to the level of where everything feels like it's tied, and I eventually have to have this. I stopped at a point before I got all the way there where I just feel like Missouri is going to be a little bit more talented, especially in the positions like we saw with Auburn last week on the lines, for example. I loved also what I saw from Bo Pribula. I mean, the quarterback decision was basically made for them when an injury came into play, but he was really, really good. Jalen Daniels looks great. I would love to eat my words here, and I think I might, because I think Kansas has a hell of a shot to go into Columbia. Love the rivalry and all the pageantry that comes with it, and the pageantry boiling down to real legit hatred. I mean, like there's rivalries where people don't like each other, but man, this one's got some just deep-seated, like real deal dislike, and that's what makes it special. So yeah, this ought to be one hell of a border war, but I am going to go with the home team and the Missouri Tigers.
They have played since 1891 with Missouri leading 57, 54, and 9 ties. This is one of those that dissolved when the conferences changed, not just Oklahoma, Nebraska, whatever. And this one here, you hate to see it disappear.
Well, it's here, so it's yeah. I mean, it's here and it's in full-fledged action. But yeah, there was
last time they played though was 11.
Yeah, there was some disruption, so we're getting it back, and it's fantastic to have it back. I mean, it's a big deal, and I feel like it's being covered like a big deal. But I don't know if like just nationally you're being slapped across the face with how big of a deal it is. So yeah, for these two to link back up, really, really cool, and very much looking forward to this matchup. And what a win it would be for Kansas, but I think it'd be a hell of a win for Missouri as well. But I'm going Tigers here.
Game number 3.
Yeah, baby. Talk about hatred and all that comes with that. Iowa State, and I'm going Cyclones. They've had the advantage here of late after it being a big bugaboo on Matt Campbell's back there for a little while. I just think Iowa State's in a real groove. I'm going to have my Mojo rankings, which is just my own, just more personalized power rankings for the Big 12 coming up here in a little while, and you'll see where I have Iowa State. But I love everything that they're doing right now. I think Kansas State's clearly a team that's like in flux, but to go out to Ireland and beat them in a close game was a big deal, and then to just be as sharp as you were last week in comparison to a Kansas State. I know the thought process is that when you come back from Ireland, according to the various coaches who have played in that game, or coaches like Chris Kleiman, who's now played in that game, or Matt Campbell, and talked to coaches who have played in it in previous years, like at some point you're going to have a hangover game. And it's a matter of, is it the second game or the third game or the fourth game? But sometime in the first month, the coaches who have played in Ireland say you're going to have a weird game. For Kansas State, maybe that was last week. For Iowa State, it definitely wasn't last week. I hope it's not this week for their sake, because this is a big one for them. It's also a big one for the league as well. And I love what they're doing. I like Iowa State, not big here because these are always close games, but I think they're the better football team, and I'm rolling with them to get the victory this weekend in Ames. So on to game number 4. Duke and Illinois, man, Darian Mensah was a lot of fun to watch last week. I think Duke's a really good football team, but I'm taking the Illini. I just think they got a nice little groove going on, and I actually brought this up earlier. Luke Altmaier we were talking about Baylor, and we'll get to them in a second, but we were talking about them in the commercial break for a reason. I asked the guys in here, I was like, the last time they beat a top 25 team was in 2021. It was the Sugar Bowl, and Luke Altmaier was the quarterback that had to come in due to injury early on in that game, and he was just this fresh-faced, like, hey, pal, go win the Sugar Bowl for us. And he did not, because on the other side was Jalen Petrie and Terrell Bernard and like the best Baylor defense ever. But now he's grown into this fifth-year senior quarterback for the Illini, and he's had some pretty good success. But this one was a coin flip for me. I could definitely see Duke pulling this one out, but I just ultimately defaulted to the hot hand and the more consistent as of late, although I guess that's probably not even really fair to say, but I just flipped a coin here. I'm going Illinois and the Big Ten.
All right.
And then Baylor and SMU. I just brought up the top 25 rankings and the drought for Baylor over the last few years. Since 2021, they have not beaten a single top 25 team since that Sugar Bowl that closed out that 2021 season, I should clarify. But here is a golden opportunity to beat a top 25 team just up the road. Really good quarterbacks in this game, and I think it's very much like looking in a mirror the rest of it. I think that they're going to have equal levels of talent, maybe a slight advantage depending on if you look at a specific position, but I think this is one of those where you kind of feel like you're looking at as much of an equal team as you possibly can. This game's important for reasons outside just the gridiron, the obvious that Baylor needs a win to get a top 25 one would be good for SMU to beat Baylor. Like the bragging rights that are baked in here, even though this isn't some longstanding rivalry, the fact that they are two Texas private schools that are on the inside but don't have any guarantees about 10 years from now what that looks like. Those two and TCU are all kind of fighting for the same stratosphere. And so for that reason, this is a very important game, I think, for both. And I really struggle with this one because it'd be easy to just say no to Baylor after what we saw last week, but I don't think it was all negative. I don't think it was all bad. I think Sawyer Robertson actually played pretty well. Could have played better, sure, but I don't expect SMU to have as good of a defense as Auburn does. And I think Baylor bounces back on the hilltop in a close game. If Sawyer Robertson has a game like last week and is able to disperse it but get a little bit of help from the run game, that would obviously go a long, long way into helping Baylor's hand here. If not, if he's got to just throw it and the defense looks like it did last week, then this could be a really big victory for SMU. But I entrust that Baylor's going to rebound and correct some of their mistakes as best they can. And I just have a hunch that they're going to go up there and win this game. And I always follow my gut feel that usually leads me pretty well with Baylor in particular. And my gut just says them in a close game up in Dallas.
Well, it's going to be fun early on, 11 o'clock kickoff immediately as you open up your Saturday. And there are implications with this game, with that triumvirate of private schools with TCU, SMU, and also Baylor and TCU no longer playing SMU. And SMU has gotten them a little bit in recent years.
You've got constant crossover recruiting battles that weren't really that difficult to win in years past, but then once NIL opened back up, SMU became a player right away. They get an invite to the ACC. The last time these two teams met, SMU was one of the, if not the worst programs in the entire country. The last 4 or 5 meetings were 25, 30-plus point blowouts for Baylor. Baylor's won 13 straight games dating back to 1989, but that was a different SMU. This is a newer, revitalized SMU, and so they're fighting for a lot of the same turf. Got a lot of the same recruiting prospects that they've tussled over the last couple of years. And so for those reasons is important. And then just the bragging rights of playing another Texas team, and especially one that's so similar to you like TCU. So I wouldn't bet the house on that, but I just have a feeling that's pulling me in the direction of Baylor in a tight game. So we'll see how all that goes, obviously, but they're my picks.
All right. Paul Catalina's picks. He's out of town. We'll change him up. Every one of these will flip. Like he's picking Memphis to beat Oklahoma in this open. No, he's got Oklahoma to win this game.
Memphis?
I was joking.
Oh, okay. I was like, I thought you were being serious.
We're going to change his picks, and he thinks Memphis is going to beat Oklahoma.
All right.
So he's got Oklahoma. So all three of us do. He's got KU because Amanda would beat his ass if he didn't, even though it's not basketball. And he does all of us like what KU and Jalen Daniels.
If Kansas goes and gets their ass whooped this weekend, I think that would be a real shock. I really do. It'd be shock, chalk, Jayhawk. I mean, because I do think they're a pretty good team. I don't think picking them is – I mean, I definitely think he picked them in part because the family dictated it.
Well, he's going to be in front of all of them this week, too.
But I also think that that's a legit choice based on what we've seen from Kansas so far.
All right, so there we are with KU over Missouri. He's got Iowa State. Not surprised he's picked them. The Cyclones, 16th in the country against the Hawkeyes of Kirk Ferentz and company. And the next game, he's got Duke. He likes Mensa. He loves Mensa. A lot of people do. He's got Duke having too much for Illinois.
Yeah, I think that's a really tough game to pick. Maybe if you're deeper in the weeds on those teams, then maybe it's a little bit more simple. But I think that's one that really left me kind of sitting there and thinking for a while. And I was very intrigued by Mensa in particular, and just kind of the pizzazz and the swagger we saw from him last week. But I mean, Altmaier's been there a long time, and I just default to. I don't think this is always the case with Big Ten and SEC versus ACC, Big 12, so on and so forth, because clearly Florida State's got as much talent as a lot of, if not most of those teams. Same thing with Miami, same thing with Clemson. But I do think when you're starting to get to like the middle of the pack, I do think that more often than not, I'm probably going to default until I just lose so many times in a row. I'm taught better, but I just default to, I think they're going to have a slight advantage. Now, will Illinois have a much greater advantage than Duke? No, probably not, but that was just kind of in my head when I was trying to rationalize my pick.
I don't know what it is. Okay, I want to go back again with one more on that Duke and Illinois game. I like going back to seeing history. It's like I'd never really have, like those two logos don't make sense. It makes now sense because they've only played like twice in their history. They've played twice in their history, 1958 in 1965. So this is going to be why it is so unique to see those two.
Well, every write-up I've seen on this game predicts it to be a close one. I think it is as much of a coin flip as any other game this weekend, especially of the big games. So, yeah, I think this one ought to be close. And if it isn't, then obviously that's a story unto itself for whoever is on the winning side of things. But, yeah, great opportunity for both and a really intriguing matchup.
All right. And then he has Baylor winning at SMU. Up in Dallas at 11 o'clock or just after 11 o'clock coming up on Saturday.
I just will assume he's kind of in line with maybe where our heads are of like last week you lost. Yes, it definitely wasn't as embarrassing as some have tried to portray it. Like you had moments in that game where you were still very much in it late, if not. And I don't want to do if the whole touchdown didn't happen, then, but like literally the kick return touchdown. I mean, you had just pulled into a single score and you immediately give up a kickoff return touchdown. And then it was like, okay, well, there goes your chances.
That's when the game ended.
Yeah, that's when the game was over.
At least you knew they just weren't having a fight.
Well, they didn't have enough at that point because you had just pulled within one score and you just turn around and give up a kickoff return touchdoall to put it right back to 2. And so you just kind of screwed yourself over with that sequence of events. But Auburn was the better team. I will not hear otherwise. I don't know that it was just this massive gap, however, overall. And so I still think Baylor's a really good team. And, I think we're all just kind of feeling the vibe that maybe that helped them playing a team like Auburn, who is going to have a lot of similarities with a Rhett Lashley, very Auburn familiar man himself, very Hugh Freeze familiar man himself. I think that'll help SMU. But I do think that will help Baylor in a lot of ways defensively be ready for what Kevin Jennings and company are going to be throwing their way.
Somebody mentioned it was late night Saturday because it was a Friday. And they were talking about the yardage. I do think that sometimes fans look at total yards when the bottom line is, are you scoring points? The other part of it is when you think about total yards, they had a 100-yard kick return. And that doesn't count towards total yards. It's special teams yard, return yardage, and sometimes that gets overlooked too. Now, back to Oklahoma and Michigan. Justice Haynes, do you guys remember where he used to be? Alabama. He didn't have a lot of success his freshman year or sophomore year. He wasn't bad, scored 7 touchdowns. He had a huge game in their win to open up the year, 159 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was against New Mexico, so I'm not trying to put too much on it. But he will be interested to see what he can do and what Michigan can do against Oklahoma with their ground game.
Sure, yeah, they're really good. I think it's the story of where both teams have really good defenses, and that's not really a question going into this game. It's a matter of what the fresh-faced, new-faced quarterbacks are going to do and leading the offenses against those really good defenses. And, yeah, Justice Haynes, a great player. I think you're really excited about Bryce Underwood and what you saw from him. And Michigan's recruited as well as anybody over the last few years. So it's as big of a blue blood battle as you can get outside of just the more steroided up version of it last week. And what I mean by that is just you had number 1 and was it 1 and 3 with Ohio State, or was it 1 and 2?
1 and 2. Well, it depends on which bowl.
Yeah, okay. So, but this isn't quite that. This is a couple of teams that are a little further down the list, but I mean, it's as big as you can get outside of having 1 versus 2 on top of it. So, yeah, I mean, all these games early on when we really don't know a ton still, we know more than we did last week, but I mean, just because Kansas has looked really good, I don't know that they're better than Missouri or vice versa. So it's a lot of fun to see these crossovers and these big games early. And that is one thing that I think college football is getting right this year. That was an epic opening weekend. I think the more games you can have like this outside of conference play, the more fun. Now, I do think you got to leave room for some of the smaller schools to just for 1 week get their paycheck from everybody. But we don't need to have people playing like 3 of those in a year, right? No, let's have Oklahoma playing Michigan and Texas playing Ohio State, or Texas Tech playing or Arkansas, or Baylor Auburn, or so on and so forth. Duke and Illinois. Bring all that you can, because it's fun to see these matchups and kind of get a better picture versus watching somebody just beat up on Fordham.
By the 2 games between Ohio State, Texas, and now Michigan and Oklahoma, Michigan number 1 all-time wins, Ohio State number 2, Texas and Oklahoma are at 5 and 6. So you have 4 of the top 6 all-time winningest programs ever meeting, and I love it, in the first couple of weeks of the season.
So what, Notre Dame?
Alabama, Notre Dame is in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And then Penn State, Nebraska soon after when you get past Texas and Oklahoma. So,
well, last week we talked a bit about the crossovers, and SEC had 2 high-profile losses but did pretty well. This week, going to have some more crossover matchups, and I think for the Big 12, those games that they're going to have, like Baylor, SMU, are really important for the postseason discussion. They need to win some of those games this weekend. Kansas over Missouri would be a really, really good win as well. So opportunities there.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State.
State and Oregon.
Don't
yes.
expect that to happen, but that would be huge if it does.
Right.
Now, when we come back, we're going to hear from Pat Smith. What has it been like in Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, and Alabama? 3-man front. He's down next. He is 365 Sports. When we want to go to the deep heart of Alabama and the SEC, we get Pat on. He's next. This is 365 Sports.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget, from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560, or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
By the way, a couple of notes before we get to Pat Smith. Andrew Valade, who has those polls, he just put one up about, do you feel like Ohio State should be number one in options of how you vote? He also, today, at the end of the show, near the end, like 5:55, is going to have a couple of quizzes, a couple of college football quizzes, Andrew, is that right? A couple of football quizzes that we'll have at the end of the show following the top 5 and the poll results. And Pat Smith, our great friend, 3-man front, joins us now on 365 Sports. So, Pat, Alabama's not happy, Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, if they're 12-1 and lose a game. What's it been like after the last 4 to 5 days?
Well, it seems like a yesteryear ago, guys, that Alabama was that good based on the last season and a half. Man, it's been rough. You know, we always work on Labor Day because it's the opening of the college football season. And, you know, we thought we were going to come in on Monday and talk about Auburn's big win against Baylor and Alabama going down to Doak Campbell getting a win. And it was going to be a nice laid-back Labor Day. And then, oh, my gosh, it was absolutely – took me back about 25 years ago when Mike Shula was the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and everybody was wanting to just absolutely go crazy on a Monday after a Saturday, ripping into the Tide and how bad they are. Man, I'm telling you, this fan base, they are on edge right now, and I'm not really sure that they're going to be able to come off the edge based on what they have in the next couple of weeks.
Pat, I tell you what, I knew it was bad because you're not a clicks and views overreaction guy, but I thought that it was telling that when that game was going on, you put up the buyout and the contract details of Kalen DeBoer. I don't know if Alabama has that kind of money or not, but I could tell you, I've seen some of the quotes coming, maybe anonymous donors, whatever. Everybody's pissed, aren't they?
They're beyond pissed. And listen, you guys go to work every day and you see an oil well on the side of a road. That's no big thing in the state of Texas. There's not any oil wells in West Alabama. I'm just here to tell you, okay? That's a problem. The $69.3 million buyout, guys, I don't care how bad it gets. And that's why I sent it out in mid-game, because I was already getting blown up. People texting me from Doak Campbell going, oh, my gosh, you know, what's his buyout? What's happening? And I said, okay, for just future reference, guys, this is what it looks like. Because if Alabama is not the highest in NIL in the SEC, which they're not, you mean to tell me that they're going to find $69.3 million underneath Coleman Coliseum to pay Kalen DeBoer? The answer is no. They're going to have to stick this out. They're going to have to do whatever they can to right this ship. Because in this world of NIL and transfer portal, they just do not have that money that is just sitting there. And it's going to be a really tough pill to swallow. So now they're just hoping that they can kind of right the ship a little bit, that they can get back into it. Because the talking points this week has been, well, everything that they wanted at the end of the year, the goals are still intact. Going to Atlanta, we haven't played an SEC game. Okay, that's still on the table. Well, if we go to Atlanta, that means that we're going to be able to go to the college football playoffs. So there's a lot of what-if scenarios that are brewing right now. But based on the fandom that watches football, and they're very educated guys. I know we get a bad rap in this state in regards to, you know, the craziness that poisons trees and throws bricks through coaches' windows. But these people know good football. And when they see that Alabama's effort was lackadaisical against FSU, that's a problem. And that's one of the biggest things that they have with Kalen DeBoer right now.
Yeah, I think I was going to ask you before you said that, of like, hey, what was the most alarming thing? And I think it's pretty clearly from what I've seen, the effort piece, huh?
Yeah. Well, now, when a coach comes out after the game and you have him on Monday talking about, well, you know, just got to remind everybody that, you know, that they got to play with fire. You know, they got to come out with their intensity. You are in an opposing, stadium in front of 68,000 crazy fans. How can you not get fired up for that game? Do you have to honestly remind these kids that they're football players and that you got to, go out there with your head on fire and try to play with intensity? That's the thing that was the most alarming. It's like, hey, you go on the road and you lose a 3-point game to Florida State. Okay, you get it. No problem. But when you see in the first half, secondary guys not running to the ball, Alabama had the most missed tackles in that football game against Florida State than they've had in the Kalen DeBoer era in Tuscaloosa. The effort was just poor. That's the thing that's got the people most upset about. And then when you have a coach that's very mild-mannered, listen, he's not going to pull a Saban. He's not going to cut you out at a press conference. It's not made for TV press conference viewing with Kalen DeBoer. He's very soft-spoken. He's like the dad that's the chaperone on the field trip. He's going to say all the right things. People are now pissed. Like they want to see him get ticked off and grab somebody's face mask and, pop somebody on the behind like Nick Saban did.
Yeah, you cannot change the personality. Otherwise, it's fake, and players would notice and understand that too. And that doesn't mean he can't raise his voice. So you remember it was a Greg Byrne. It was just like in the last few months when he was discussing the NIL and what Alabama could or could not do, and that it kind of validates what you said at the start when you mentioned the buyout.
Yeah, no, he did. I mean, listen, Alabama, and when this first got launched, and that was the major reason why Nick Saban retired, because him and Kirby Smart, the way that they have always run their programs, it was all about, hey, look, we're going to develop NFL kids, okay? You come here, we're going to develop you. You stay here for 3 or 4 years, and we're going to put you in a situation where you can make tens of millions of dollars playing for the Shield. That was the recruiting. That's what both of those guys did. Well, once it pivoted to now pay for play, and you've got 17 and 18-year-old kids that have actually done nothing on the field, but now you're paying them like there's some kind of high-profile MLB free agent, hoping that you're going to be able to get a couple $1 million return of investment out of them. That was a problem, and Alabama was very slow to the table because of the way Nick Saban always ran things. They didn't have the kind of money that the Ole Misses had, or the Texases, or the Texas A&Ms. Auburn has finally got their NIL going in the right direction. They're spending over $20 million this year on their roster. Meanwhile, Alabama, I'm told, is right underneath $20 million. So to be a blue blood and being able to explain to this fan base that you don't have the money to go out and do something, that is problematic, and people are calling BS on that. So Greg Byrne's got a lot to explain, hoping for him and the Greg Byrne fans out there that, he's going to be able to kind of at least put a product on the field that makes this fan base feel good, or you're going to have people not give money or go to the stadium, and it's going to be an extremely bad look for Greg Byrne.
I used to love the Saban press conferences, his post-game, whatever. What is the reaction? And Pat, I'm reminding you where I'm coming from. What do Alabama fans how do they react when people say now that, well, because the NIL has leveled the playing field, that some teams in the SEC might have had NIL before there was NIL? How do they react when they hear those type of allegations?
Well, you've got the old guard that just, it's the crowd that would be like, hey, get off my yard, or yelling at the clouds. It's that kind of group that hates change. And basically, let's just be honest, because all these players were getting paid, they were just getting paid under the table.
Yep.
It's been going on in the SEC forever. You guys know about the old Southwest Conference. It goes without saying everybody was doing it. But now that it's above board and it's kind of leveled the playing field, it's really difficult for the old guard Alabama fan to go, look, man, this is killing college football. It was okay when Alabama was running the table year after year, with the 12-1 season and always a member of the college football playoff. But now that the Vanderbilts of the world can put people out on the field and give you a competitive game and almost beat you now almost on a yearly basis, it becomes a huge problem. So yeah, it's been something that they have had to try to overcome, but so far it has not gone very well, as you can imagine.
Pat, elsewhere in the state, Auburn rolled into Waco last Friday night, got a very convincing and it's sometimes dominating win over Baylor to open things up for Hugh Freeze. Jackson Arnold able to run really well. I don't know what to expect of the passing game still at this point, but what's kind of been the reaction to the way the Tigers kick things off?
Well, it's unfortunate for Auburn fans because the number one story is Alabama. So if Alabama is doing well, it's the number one story. If Alabama's doing bad, it's the number one story. That's just a part of living in a state to where that Auburn has always been, the stepchild or the second in the family, so to speak. And so it's a situation for them now that they finally kind of turned the corner. They've got the momentum, but the Auburn people are over the moon. They knew that was going to be a very difficult contest in Waco. They knew that it was going to be a test. They knew that if they could get out of there with a 1-point win, that was going to help propel them for the rest of the season because they got a couple lettuce or cupcake games coming up, but then it really gets difficult in the SEC. They got to go to Norman, Oklahoma. Then they got to go to College Station. So, Auburn feels good about themselves, but they also know that there's some certain areas that they're going to have to clean up. They gave up a lot of yards in the secondary, and that was supposed to be one of their strengths. And they cannot go through an SEC season running Jackson Arnold like he did in Waco. But for the first game of the year, and with all the pressure that Hugh Freeze has been on for the previous 2 years, that was a huge, monumental win in Baylor.
Yeah, that was they just did what they were better, as Craig mentioned. You kind of wondered, but eventually they just wore you down, and they didn't panic. Baylor was able to throw the ball, but they couldn't run the ball, so they had to throw the ball. And I was impressed, though, with Jackson Arnold. I know that at times you wondered about what he was going to do when they had to throw it. Well, they didn't have to very often. Were you surprised that Aranda, with all of his defensive expertise, did not find a counter, or was it just it wouldn't have mattered because of who they were playing?
Well, yes, on both fronts. And the reason I say that is because, one, Auburn's offensive line, and listen, I work with Cole Kubelik. He does our morning show, and I come on right after him. Cole knows as much about offensive lines as anybody in America. And he has been telling me for months that of all the years of covering Auburn, and of course he played at Auburn, he was like, this is going to be one of the best offensive lines that Auburn has had in quite some time. This is legitimately one of the better offensive lines in the SEC. So with that being said, I was not surprised that Auburn had success running the football. I didn't really know how much, Aranda would be able to scheme against that. But moving forward for Auburn, that's a huge deal because Hugh Freeze wants Jackson Arnold to stay in the pocket. And I know he didn't do that a lot against Baylor, but moving forward, you're probably going to have to do that against SEC-type defenses. And with that being said, that's why a lot of Auburn people, including Cole, feel really good about where this team is and where they can go.
I love that Alabama's in this position. I can only imagine for like 21-year-olds. Like, this is just such spacey, weird territory. They've never known anything other than greatness. But
listen, I work with someone, one of our producers on the show, bless his heart. He went to Alabama. He's 27 years old. He does not know what's going on right now. Like, he is absolutely losing his mind. He cannot believe it. And I try to remind him, I've been blessed to be in this business now for over 30 years. I started covering Alabama in 1993. So I have seen every peak and every valley and all the coaches prior to Nick Saban getting there in 2007. So I've lived it. I've lived it on the radio every single day. Been very blessed to do that. And I'm just trying to give him a little bit of encouragement and just say, look, man, just understand, Alabama's been playing football for a long time, and what you experienced under Nick Saban, we will never, ever see again, and you're going to probably have to take some lumps before you can get back to the promised land.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's got to be a crazy time period, I would imagine. So it's how fitting is it that Louisiana Monroe, thinking back to Saban's loss early in his Alabama career, is up next, and then like you got Wisconsin, you got Georgia. Yep. And I was saying, like, it's just interesting to see what's ahead for Alabama. Then Auburn, I love that Oklahoma is the first SEC matchup here in a couple of weeks. So really interesting stuff ahead. But Pat, how much confidence do you have that for all the negative there is swirling right now, that Alabama can still go win 10 or 11 games somehow, or be way better off than the way that it feels after just this first week?
Well, listen, everybody's saying the right things. Everybody's saying the biggest improvement is from week to week 2. We hear all that. All the goals are still in front of us. But guys, based on what I've seen over the body of work, Alabama's 5-5 out of their last 10 games. Based on this coaching staff with Kalen DeBoer, based on Kane Womack, the defense coordinator, who's in his second year, I'm just telling you, I think the Alabama fans are going to have to lower their expectations, and I'm talking about 7 or 8 wins. I mean, the schedule is brutal, and based on the problems that you saw down in Tallahassee, I just don't know if it's a quick fix. I really don't, because as you guys know, you can't teach want to. And if you don't want to go out there in the season opening game in a hostile environment and you're playing for the University of Alabama and everything in the tradition, and you just go out there and you just be like, okay, well, let's just go out there. Okay, big deal. Let's make TikToks. Let's walk into the stadium with, stuffed animals or whatever the crap they were doing. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I just don't see anything that would give me the hope of Alabama being more than a possibility of an 8-win team. And listen, I'll come on this show and I will eat crow if they end up being a 10-win team this year. But based on what I've seen and based on all the things that they just did not, and the things that they were doing in fall camp was not present in what they did in Tallahassee. And to me, that's a coaching problem. And if that's a coaching problem, I'm not really sure that you're going to be able to turn things around in the gauntlet that's the SEC.
Quick answer, if you don't mind, Pat. Who's taking the most heat outside of the coaching staff? What is it, Simpson? Who is it, the safety that was kind of lollygagging on that run for down inside the red zone? Who's taking the heat?
Right now, the biggest heat is on the defense right now, and that's Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator, because, listen, everyone in this state knows Gus Malzahn. I mean, covering Gus Malzahn all those years as the head coach at Auburn, you know exactly what Gus Malzahn is going to do. You had all summer long to plan for the misdirection. You had all summer long to plan for the eye candy and all the crazy high school stuff that Gus Malzahn did when he was at Auburn. And Alabama acted like it was the first time they ever saw a Gus Malzahn-led offense. Mm-hmm. It was purely amazing. And for the most part, the guys that were loafing during the game, the missed tackles, that was on the defense. And so that's why Kane Womack is getting a lot of the blame. But the quarterback, Ty Simpson, he kind of looked like a deer in the headlights at times. So there's equal blame going on. But I would say right now it's still on the defensive side. But don't make no bones about it. Kalen DeBoer, he's the one with the 7th highest contract in all of college football. He's the one that's taking all the bullets right now.
Thank you, Pat. Great stuff. That's why we had you on, to hear what is going on in Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, and the state of Alabama. Thanks for your time. Have a great week.
Thanks, boys. Talk soon.
Pat Smith, co-host of Three Man Front. He mentioned Cole Kublik. He was on the show with us last week as well. When we come back, a couple of other nuggets. By the way, around the corner, when is the Mojo rankings are going to be at what time? 5:30? Are you guys trying to get my attention? Okay, 5:30. I'm sorry. Zach Gelb at the top of the hour, but a couple of other nuggets to get to before him.
Yeah, I wanted to point out, I mentioned a couple games there with Pat about what's on the horizon for Alabama, and it's just interesting to kind of get the lay of the land, even though you see a lot of that on social media. But when you're down in, right there in the heart of it, I'm sure it's amplified times 10, but Louisiana Monroe is up next for them. You remember the Saban loss to them.
Right off the top. Yep.
Then they host Wisconsin, but then they've got Georgia on the road, Vandy at Missouri, Tennessee at home, at South Carolina, LSU at home, Oklahoma at home. I mean, that is a gauntlet of a schedule with, like, if I name 7 teams, 6 of them are in the top 25 right now that they're about to play in consecutive weeks until they get to Eastern Illinois eventually in late November. So when you hear the wins-loss predictions, you're like, all right, yeah, whatever. Well, no, I think the schedule also comes into play. I don't think Wisconsin's anything great necessarily, but still, beyond
Where's
the non-con,
not that it matters.
It's in Tuscaloosa, but beyond the non-con, I mean, that SEC slate, that's not just the talk about, it just means, like, that's like legitimately all of the teams that have
every one of those.
It's like all the teams that have beaten them recently or are ranked. And so, yeah, the whole 8-9 wins thing, that might not be all that crazy if they don't get better.
Man, you started listening. I kept on waiting for you to say like Mississippi State or someone like that. Nope. One after another, after another, and after another. What do you want to do here, Brandon? Break and come back? We got Yeah, because Zach Gelb's not till 5:05 because he's doing his own show on the national network. We'll be right back. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends. Ted Teague, CEO and General Manager. David Gray, Sales Manager. The Jeep, right now, Motor Trend's Truck of the Year, Ram Truck. What they do, they've won that award multiple times, many different times, like Alabama used to win college football titles. Stylish new Dodges, adventure-ready Jeeps. The Jeep Wagoneer is a classy, good-looking SUV. The Grand Cherokee, of course, also the same. Buying your first vehicle, they have pre-owned cars on the lot or the opportunities for you to find something that's manageable for both you and your budget on the lot at Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Again, it's the Drive into Fall event. David Gray, Sales Manager. Tell him I sent you. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help us finally hear semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Penny to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Sometimes I dip my toe in the swimming pool, or otherwise known as the chat room. Man, there's some interesting yes, I was on the air, Brandon. I was on the air when I was making that call because General Ursus, Mr. Volfan, Smokey making an important phone call. But I was talking to one of our great sponsors, Dr. Kent Petty. So there we are with that. All right. So we just had this segment about Alabama, but also other things going on in college football. But A.J. McCarron, the former quarterback, you look at these other teams that have $40 to $50 million in NIL. Alabama just doesn't have that. They don't have that kind of money. I'm not feeling sorry for them because they don't have the money, because as even Pat mentioned, they've always had what they needed to put that roster together, no matter what's true or not. But they have less than $20 million in NIL. Okay. Byrne kind of warned everybody about this, or at least he threw it out there. It's football today. Either you shit or get off the pot, so to speak. And so got a feeling what they're going to do. But that doesn't take away, by the way, this is not a lack of talent issue. This is a mixed up, convoluted, kind of confusing situation. DeBoer hasn't done or clicked the way. Had the big win against Georgia last year. They've had some nice wins, but there's something more than whether or not their roster's built through what they have available for NIL.
Yeah, I think that that's unfortunate for them, but nobody's crying for Alabama other than Alabama fans. I mean, you ruled the roost when you could, pay players the other old way of doing things under the table, and there was nobody that was there to really keep count of it or to monitor it the same way it's all being monitored today, and you thrived during that era, so nobody's crying for you now that it's all on the up and up and you have to do things above board for the most part, even though others still don't do that. There's actually a story in the NBA right now involving Kawhi Leonard about, you talk about people cheating to get whatever, where Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, apparently arranged like this fake sponsorship gig for like a tree planting service or something, basically, that paid Kawhi Leonard $20 million. And he did like a commercial or something for it. And it was all to circumvent the salary cap. And it was a report that dropped from Pablo Torre this afternoon, his, I guess, next big expose. So it doesn't even matter with leagues that do have rules. They're still trying to circumvent the cap and do whatever they can to get a talent advantage. But for a long time, I mean, Alabama loved those $100 handshakes and the bill in the lockers as much as anybody. And the sport has changed, and just because it's changed doesn't mean that Alabama automatically just gets brought up with it. They've got to adjust like everybody else, and I think what's been eye-opening is just how they are not quite up to snuff with others in that particular department, in that category. Now, it's not surprising when you break down the population of the state of Alabama versus the state of Ohio or the state of Texas. It's not all that surprising to get down to like per capita average salaries and things like that, size of not fan bases, but actual alumni and things of that nature. Alabama's not at the top of all those lists. So now that that's come into play, the Texas, the Ohio States, they're great, man. Michigan, totally fine. They're perfect. They've never been better, but there are a bunch of big bads, a bunch of big blue bloods that, as successful as they've been and how much money they appear to have, they don't have it unlimitless. And some do in Austin and Ann Arbor and in Columbus. But in Tuscaloosa, it's become very clear over the last 3 years that there is a limit to what they can do and what they can keep asking for. And that is creating some of this tension and some of this wonder about where this leads them ultimately. Now, they're still going to be better than most, but the days of, ripping off national championships every year, every other year, in particular because of a coaching advantage and in a lot of cases a talent advantage as well, the coaching advantage is completely out the window, and the talent advantage is now as negligible as it's been in 25 years. So welcome to reality.
Yeah.
I mean,
St. Dominic's Rosary, Kalen DeBoer is an excellent coach. Alabama fans have unrealistic expectations.
Oh, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, but you got to think too. And I brought up the thing with Pat about like, I can only imagine what like 20-year-olds are thinking right now. And I could have gone further. You could say like 30-year-olds. That's how long they've been on this run, basically. About 25 would be about, I guess, the average of the run. So about 25 years.
18 years.
So you were growing up, and when you're like 5, 6, 7, when you start becoming a fan of certain things and start to actually like know it and remember it and all that, like, yeah, there's a whole generation of Alabama fans that have grown up to the point where they're like 30 years old now that know nothing other than BCS, national championships, playoff appearances, all those types of things. The drought they're on right now is not unprecedented for those of us that are older than that, but for the 30 and under crowd, they don't know any different than that. And so this is like not just a smack in the face. This is a like life-altering reality check that they didn't even know existed, where Alabama's not just king, whatever category you want to name in college football. So yeah, the NIL piece has definitely created not just problems now, but it also led to Nick Saban leaving in large part. I mean, yeah, there was age and other things involved, but Pat acknowledges it. Everybody acknowledges like Saban wasn't going to play in this game, especially if he didn't have the advantage to go win this game every single time he went out, like he mostly did when you weren't paying players on the up and up, and you in basically every game you ever played had a talent advantage of some sort. And now that's not the case. And so it's created a new dynamic that is very fun and refreshing for those of us who just thought we'd be at the mercy of Alabama football for the rest of our lives. And it's lifted others like a Texas Tech and, maybe some others that I don't know that there's any others that are like top of mind as far as have truly benefited greatly so far from NIL.
Garrett, and all the chat room, who among those who are not considered in that chunk of 12 to 15, you always know they're going to be pretty good, has benefited that you really didn't expect with NIL? Texas Tech remains to be seen, but they're obviously locked in 100%.
Yeah, I mean, they're in better shape than they've ever been before. And if they don't win now, then they might just have to resort to, we're never going to win, because I don't know what it would take. Like at this point, I mean, outside of just
SMU is great.
I mean, SMU's benefiting greatly right now, all the way up until a playoff appearance in their first year in the ACC a year ago. That never would have happened prior, or at least it would have taken a lot longer to get there. So yeah, those are two prime examples of teams that have benefited and evened the playing field through NIL. And while some have been lifted up, and then others who are already at the highest peak got lifted even further, there's some that have dropped. And Alabama is just one of those schools that maybe you didn't expect to drop, but they have dropped because they don't have unlimited this and that like the Buckeyes, the Longhorns, the Wolverines, and some of those.
Great T News. You mentioned Indiana. I don't think that's the case.
What about Arizona State? Does Arizona State fall on that?
I think they're right there on the edge. I think that, they had so much dysfunction.
Right.
Yeah, I think Dillingham has rallied the troops, so to speak, the way it appears Joey has done at Texas Tech.
No, Indiana's definitely benefited from NIL, and Signetti as well, just being a really good coach.
I thought it was a transfer portal as much with them and Signetti. But
what do you think NIL?
Yeah,
it's not just for high school recruits; it's for the guys in the transfer portal. That's
I agree, but I don't know if how much of the guys that transferred on that team that was so good last year was really all that money driven. I'm not saying it wasn't money driven, but but
you don't know.
So
it very well could be that it was that. I think it's a combination of factors, but they've definitely benefited from NIL. I don't know it's to the extent of flashing the cash in your face like Texas Tech, where it's just super obvious that that's a big storyline. Because mostly we just talked about Signetti getting into it and, trolling and talking trash and all that kind of jazz. But Indiana's definitely benefited from it. Arizona State, I think they benefited. I think there's just a new coat of paint, a new coach, and that as much as anything else.
Can you make an argument for Tennessee? Like, Tennessee has been so irrelevant until now with the transfer portal and NIL.
Well, because of Nico alone, when they got him to commit, and that was the biggest one we'd ever seen.
I think
before.
Tennessee. I don't think necessarily the conversation is everybody who has benefited. Like they're all clear cut. And even Tech to some degree remains a little bit to be seen. I mean, they haven't won a title yet based off the NIL. They very well might here in 3 months.
Colorado, there's another team.
Yeah, I think everybody who's spent it has benefited from it, but some clearly don't have a limit to it. So I would say, Garrett, I don't think Indiana's just got blank checks and Arizona State's got blank checks like the other ones I mentioned. Plus, but I think, shoot, man, you got to throw Texas Tech in there with Ohio State and Texas and Michigan, though, as far as the unlimited amount of money. So I should include them actually with that group, and that's a distinction that places them above Alabama. So that right there alone is Nick Saban going, the hell you mean Texas Tech spending more money on players than Alabama is? And what the hell do you mean they have more and more and more and you don't have any more to give? And that right there was a big warning sign to him of your time is coming to a close, pal. This is not the same college football, but it's been beautiful for others to enjoy it on a completely different level and to see some of this chaos. It's just not been great for Alabama fans.
Yeah, you're right, and there's no question that Saban could see that writing on the wall, even though I think he would win through no matter what the rules are, but he could see it. And he did want to, as he mentioned, or Pat did, he wanted to create guys that came in, some elite blue chips that played right away, but also the process, so to speak, to become an NFL draft pick down the road. When we come back, Zach Gelb, Infinity Sports Network, just wrapped up his show. He'll join us next. This is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI. Dr. Rob Maxey, golly, just a beautiful business of what they've done, accomplished, and done for you, the patient, and for doctors too. A state-of-the-art imaging machine, MRIs for $497 or less. I'll share this. I don't think Kim's made it clear he's had some really bad back issues, some things that had been fixed have flared up a little bit, and it's got him in pain, and he's just kind of fighting through it. But he told me, he goes, I sure wish I could go find, he's in Arizona right now. He'll be back in Lubbock for their game this weekend if he can fly. I sure wish I could find a place here that had an MRI for $497. He knows, he's heard it. He understands that's the case at Ideal when the average is $1,100 or more dollars for an MRI. So if you have back pain, knee pain, a shoulder pain, and it's more than just soreness, and your doctor wants a better look, recommend and you make sure that he calls Ideal MRI inside the Central Texas Marketplace off I-35 in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
Our great friend is back. Zach Gelb, Infinity Sports Network with us, national talk show host, hell of a sportscaster too, on 365 Sports. I know the NFL starts tomorrow, Philly and Dallas, and we will get to that. But would like to get, you love college football too. What were your impressions with the games? Like, who has to be on alert? Is it Alabama? Who was better than you thought? And I thought there was some of the classic games were tight and could have gone either way.
No, I'm very disappointed in you, Smokey. Extremely disappointed in you.
Because I didn't bring up.
Because you didn't bring up that you blew me off at the Super Bowl this past year.
Wow.
And I was supposed to appear live on the show, which I did.
Oh my
and
God.
You
Did I
weren't
really?
there. You
What?
weren't there. I did the show with Paul, had a great conversation with him, and you chickened out.
I don't know.
You had some illness.
I was on my way back. I had horrible back. I'm telling you, it was shoulder injury, I'm old. I got things that pop up. Nah, what are you talking about? Okay.
I just heard you were trying to get another endorsement out of that deal.
No,
that's what I heard.
I think I did too out of that, actually. I actually did. Well, I'm sorry I missed you.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So looking back at this past weekend, very disappointed with Clemson. I'm not usually a believer that Dabo Swinney, who, by the way, acted like a jackass, after the game and made Brian Kelly likable. But I'm usually not a believer that Dabo Swinney was going to be able to win another national championship again until this season. And that belief went out of the window after one game. His offense was miserable up against LSU. And Alabama, I thought they could win the national championship this year. They were my pick. Somehow the big fat dope right here picked Alabama going up against Clemson in the Natty. And after 1 week, that doesn't look good. But Alabama used to be the bully. Now they get bullied, and you let Castellanos say all those things, and you don't beat them. That was disgraceful, and a little disappointed. I'll be more disappointed they lose to A&M, but a little disappointed in Notre Dame after the season they just had, and how they only handed the ball off 10 times to Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, man, that was definitely surprising. We just had probably 30 minutes of this show between a guest and just conversation talking about the Alabama meltdown. And Zach, imagine. There are like 20 to 25-year-olds that they know you talk about growing up and not knowing any better, but they know absolutely nothing other than national championship or bust. And they have apparently, according to one of our buddies down there, no idea of how to react to Alabama being 0-1 and looking as badly as they did.
Yeah, and so here's what it is. The bottom line, that football team looks undisciplined, and I'm a big fan of Kalen DeBoer. I like Kalen DeBoer. But this is going to be an uphill battle for him. But that team was undisciplined, and how dominated they were in the trenches. That's the crazy part to me, because usually you think of those Alabama teams and those great offensive lines and those great defensive lines. That competitive effort was not there. And it's wild after Castellanos gave you basically the golden ticket. I'm going to talk all this smack. And the players, I think it was on the first drive after they were up 7-0. Castellanos could have got off the field, and they elongated that drive because of defensive holding penalty. And after that, it was pretty much night-night.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Bill Belichick, college football head coach.
Yep.
Well,
jeez,
there's always next week, right? I guess. But man, I've followed TCU for a long time. Them beating North Carolina to me was actually like the logical thing that was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but do you have hopes this will get better? I mean, I guess it only can, right?
Yeah, so all offseason long, I asked people, what do you expect out of Bill Belichick at UNC? And no one gave me an answer. No one could tell me they were going to be great. No one could tell me they were going to be horrible. I thought TCU was going to win the game. They go up 7-0. I get it. It became the epicenter of the college football world on Monday night of Labor Day weekend. So who did you think Teddy Bruschi was going to pick? Who did you think Pat McAfee did a spot with Belichick last year was going to pick? Who did you think Nick Saban was going to pick? So I'm not surprised that those guys picked UNC, but I think most people thought TCU was going to win the game. But when Belichick's team marches right down the field, goes up 7-0, and then they allow 41 unanswered points, that was embarrassing. That was pathetic. Bill should be in the NFL anyway. Atlanta Falcons fans taking victory laps because, we hired Raheem Morris and not Belichick. The team went 8-9 last year. When Bill had a bottom 5 roster, Mac Jones in the NFL, he won 10 games. So I'm not saying that UNC is going to look like that each and every week. Could they get to 6 wins this year? I'm not going to take that off the table. But yeah, what I saw up against TCU, that defense was horrendous. And probably Johnson's kid, I know he's been in college for 3,000 years. He should probably be the starting quarterback.
Hey, you mentioned Jeremiah Love. Man, when he had the ball, it looked like he was always getting something done. That was surprising now when you look back at the number of carries at Notre Dame. I
had a conversation with him last year, and they were not giving him as many carries as he probably should get. And he talked about that. So I'm not saying like he was a secret last year because he was so good, but this year going into the season, everyone called him the best running back in college football. So I know you have another really good running back. They probably have the best 1-2 punch in college football. Maybe Penn State could rival them with Singleton and Allen, but only giving him the rock 10 times on the ground was inconceivable to me. And I simply I still don't get it.
In the circles you run in and just the part of the country you're in, was there a big buzz for college football's opening weekend, or is there still more chatter about what's coming up this weekend?
On Long Island, and I've done this for the last 5 years, but my coworker, he invites us all over. We have like 40 people together. We're smoking ribs. We got Chick-fil-A. We got sausage and peppers, burgers, hot dogs, all that stuff. And we watch all the games. I got there at 11 a.m. Eastern, when the game started at noon. And I didn't leave until after that Clemson game ended. And then I went home and I watched a little bit of UCLA and Utah. I think Kyle Whittingham's team, after a bad year, they'll bounce back this season. And we saw them make Nico Iamaleava regret probably leaving to go to UCLA from Tennessee. So the Texas stuff was huge, and Arch Manning was jittery. Sark, obviously, for some reason, didn't trust his young quarterback, and the Ohio State defense was phenomenal. And they shut down those Texas wide receivers. I think Arch in Texas will be fine. I still think they'll make the college football playoff. But Arch, definitely in our part of the country, also with Eli, me being a New Yorker, Eli being, Arch's uncle, there was definitely a buzz around Arch Manning with all the buildup.
Zach Gelb with us, Infinity Sports Network on 365 Sports.
Zach, a lot of talk about what was going to happen with Micah Parsons, and last week we get the final word that he is a Green Bay Packer. Paul, unfortunately, couldn't be with us today, or else I'm sure he would have spent the entire segment wanting to talk about that alone. But what was your reaction to Parsons and Dallas going their separate ways? And I think everybody knows that makes Green Bay better, but what do you think it does for Dallas in the big picture?
It makes Green Bay a Super Bowl contender. For Dallas, I thought Dallas could be anywhere between an 8 to 10 win team this season. I think after losing Micah Parsons, they're 6 to 8 wins. I'm actually going to be doing a few games this year, Cowboys games, studio hosting for Compass Media Networks on their live broadcast of Dallas Cowboys football. And one of the games I don't have every game, but one of the games I do have is Micah Parsons' return to Dallas. So nice. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. You got a good 1-2 punch. I just hope Pickens doesn't sabotage himself, which he usually does do. CeeDee Lamb's one of the best wide receivers in football. A lot of questions, though, on that defense. I like Kenny Clark. I talked to him right after the trade. He's excited to kind of show people the player that he is. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler, but he's very underrated. But Dallas making this move to stop the run, as they claim, I just don't really understand it. And to only get back 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark, I think it's a nice starting offer. If you were going to trade Mike, I don't think it's a good end result on the return. Jerry Jones, though, he operates that team in making headlines, and I think he values that more than winning, regardless of what he says. To not get this deal done with Mike and make it so personal with the agent just didn't make sense.
Do you think the agent ended up bullying him? I'm not.
The agent won.
Yeah.
The agent got his client $47 million a year. I understand Jerry, right? Old school handshake agreement. And Micah talked to him, but afterwards, when he says you have to go through my agent, I know there's a bunch of different stories, and him pretending not to know who the agent's name was, and then following it up saying the deal will only get done between myself and Micah. I just thought that was disrespectful.
Hey, Zach, a producer wanted me to ask you this question. I'm glad that he did. Did you see Dabo's comments about the LSU?
Did I see the comments with the professor grade 65-58? This is why I can't stand Dabo Swinney. Because if you're going to lose, just own it. And the first 30 seconds of that clip, he was praising LSU. But then to end it, they got graded a 65. We got graded a 58. Like, shut up. Have some class and don't act like an ass every time you lose. This Dabo Swinney and James Franklin, to me, are 2 insufferable personalities. And Dabo Swinney, in a year that I actually believed in him, in a year that I actually thought he could win a national championship, he looked like a total a-hole after the game.
You and Paul definitely have that in common. That might be your tightest bond there, is your feelings on Dabo Swinney. But I don't know where. I guess that plays well to his audience, but for everybody else outside of that bubble, it's just like, dude, what are you talking about?
All you have to do is say this. LSU had a great team. We didn't perform up to our standard. We need to be better. We still have high expectations in our mind this year, and we look forward to proving people wrong. End of story.
I agree with you. Hey, let me ask you this. Is there somebody that there's a couple of obviously Florida State, that's the biggest upset based on names, et cetera, over the weekend. What were your thoughts about Iowa State going to Dublin and beating K-State and then following up against South Dakota, but they got it done? They look like 11 wins last year. I know that there's Arizona State, there's BYU, and Utah, too. My goodness, they look good with Dampier. Your thoughts about some of that at the top of the Big 12?
All right, now, Iowa State. I picked against Arizona State this year. I said 2 Big 12 teams to make the college football playoff, one of them being Arizona State. But everyone's picking Arizona State to win the Big 12, so I just went elsewhere. Right now, if you ask me, though, today, I would say Iowa State wins the Big 12. I know they have a huge matchup this weekend up against Iowa. I think Rocco Beck looks like he could be an end of the first round type of pick. Obviously comes from a football family with Anthony Beck being his father. And I think he could be a Heisman Trophy finalist. Now, he is going to have to win the Big 12 for that to happen, but I think he can be a finalist. And I'll tell you, I was impressed by Auburn. I thought Auburn was going to have a miserable season. I thought Hugh Freeze was a dead man walking. I know that's right in your part of the country.
Sure.
With Baylor and right where you guys do the show in Waco. But I was so disappointed in Dave Aranda and Baylor for that showing up against Auburn and how easy it looked at times for the Tigers of Auburn.
It not only looked easy, but they're really not even could counter it. There was just there's nothing worse than somebody that runs right down your throat. If you give up some big throws, okay, but they could not do anything about it, and that spells disaster. Kevin Jennings can move it, run it with the SMU. I don't know what happens, but that could spell disaster for Baylor.
And I don't know the future of Aranda and how inclined fans are to move off of him. I know he restored confidence last year, but I always say this. Look at Neil Brown. If you're a college football coach and they're out on you, and then you bring them back for a year, and then you still get, the fan base back, usually they jump off the bandwagon real quick. I know Aranda has won a Big 12 championship there. We all remember that, but it seemed like last year when we were talking to you, a lot of people are out on Aranda, then they're back in at the end of the season, and then to start off the year, you have Auburn and you're at home, and you basically didn't even show up. I was very disappointed with Baylor watching that game.
Yeah, I'll say this on Aranda, Zach. This was a stat that kind of blew my mind, but they won that Big 12 title in 2021 and then followed it up that same year. The last win was the Sugar Bowl over Ole Miss. And I looked it up because it just felt like it'd been a while since they'd won a big game. The last top 25 win they had was that Sugar Bowl win over Ole Miss in 2021.
And that was the best team Baylor's ever had with Petrie and Bernard and company.
So they have a chance this weekend against SMU, but if he doesn't win that game, it's like, where are the big wins? So yeah, that's starting to pile up for sure in his case.
Look at Billy Napier. They were out on him, deservedly so early on. Then the AD said he's not going anywhere. They kept him because they were fearful of losing DJ Lagway. I know Florida played LIU. Let's calm down, everybody. But that Florida schedule is a gauntlet. I think Florida fans at the end of the year are going to be out on Billy Napier. But what happens a lot of times now in this NIL era, it actually, as much as the coaches complain about it, because I get it with the transfer portal and all that stuff and kids just focusing on money. You know what? I look at it. I'm pro NIL. I'm pro transfer portal. We just need some more order and some more chaos, and we need some more rules. But all these coaches complain about the money and complain about the transfer portal. It actually gives them a longer leash because you bring in these guys and then the teams and the schools know if I get rid of you and if I fire you, then the whole team's going to basically go in the portal. So I think it actually, in a weird way, as much as the coaches think it hurts them, it does help them if you're a coach on the hot seat.
Zach, great to have you, buddy. Appreciate your time. We'll see you next week. Thanks for your time.
You got it, guys. Be well, Smokey. Nice that you didn't duck me today.
No, man, it's bad. I was on my way. I might have been flying back by that time. My shoulder was miserable. When we come back, Craig Smoak and his Big 12 Mojo rankings around the corner. Paul's top 5. We have the poll results from Andrew Valade and a couple of quiz questions on college or in football. This is 365 Sports.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990, or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling. And wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by, let's be friends.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. Keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And welcome back to 365 Sports. Getting close to the end of the show, but before we go, we got a few things to take care of, but this in particular, which will now be a fixture on the show moving forward, and Wednesday seemed like a pretty good spot for it. It's the Big 12 Mojo rankings. Now, you've heard of power rankings. Seemingly every outlet under the sun has a power ranking, and this is my own twist on power rankings, taking some of the same basic concepts and just putting a little bit of my own spin on it, but pretty much the same idea. I call it the Mojo rankings because as much as wins and losses matter, and like in power rankings as well, there's other things that come into play outside of just your record. And I actually saw some power rankings this week where it's like just the standings. I don't want to do that. I want to like really take the temperature of a team because there can be a team that's 1-1 that's not in a good place or as good of a place as a team that's 0-1. So we'll see some of that on this list this week, but starting off with the bottom 4 of the Mojo rankings. At number 16 got UCF. I mean, by the skin of their teeth, they avoided disaster in Scott Frost's first game back. Scott Frost 2.0. Eventually, after an injury to Cam Fancher, they land on Taven Jackson. We know that was a battle. The quarterback battle was an all offseason long thing all the way up until the first game. And then Taven Jackson thrust in the spotlight, did some good things for UCF there at the end of the game to put them over the top and get them a win. But, man, it was by the hair of their chinny chin chin. And I just need to see more. Miles Montgomery's awesome. He is a great player. He's going to be big time for them and be a big reason why they win games if they win games moving forward. But I don't think we'll learn much against North Carolina A&T this week. Good to get a win, but it was just really kind of unimpressive. So for right now, if we're going not just off records, but also do I think they would beat this team or that team or this team from the rest of the league? I say no to pretty much everybody right now against UCF. So the Knights are going to start at the bottom of this list. At number 15, Kansas State. I don't think they're the 15th worst team in the Big 12. I think that when all is said and done, they'll be in the upper half of the Big 12. But we started talking about this after the Ireland trip, just the weird vibes. The Johnson family situation notwithstanding, that certainly added to it. But then they come out last week and playing a very respectable opponent, just struggled way more than you anticipated. Now, could that have been the hangover game that Chris Kleiman was referring to? Maybe so. So then, in theory, we should see them play a lot better this week. But it just feels like things are sort of off. And when I heard him talk about the young or the new players not vibing just right just yet with maybe some of the mainstays, it tells me that they are very much a work in progress. So for right now, if we're going off of just wins, they'd be a little bit higher. But since we're also incorporating vibes and uncertainties and everything that we can possibly measure, I'm putting K-State at number 15. At number 14, Oklahoma State. I think that the curveball thrown with the Haas Haney injury was just a real killer. But at the same time, if they're not very good this year, guess what Mike Gundy can say? Well, we lost our starting quarterback in the very first game of the year. Not that he really needs built-in excuses, but that was something that was really unfortunate to see. So we'll see what Zane Flores is able to do. He had some nice moments the other night, but they're just very much an incomplete on my report card right now. They've got Oregon coming up this weekend. I'm trying to find ways where that looks good on the other side of it, and I'm really struggling to. If anything, they can be a pleasant surprise moving forward. But for right now, I've got Oklahoma State at 14. And then at 13, the Arizona Wildcats. They handled their business last week. Looked good against Hawaii and do the whole transitive property. Hey, they beat Hawaii, who beat Stanford. We got a Power 5 win. It's not exactly how it works. But for Arizona, one of the teams I was lower on coming into this year, they took care of their business. Not much more than that to really blow you away. So for right now, good on the win, but I wouldn't take them over a lot of the other teams that we'll be talking about here in a second. So there's my first four: UCF, K-State, Oklahoma State, Arizona. And like I said, this is based off wins, but also how you look, how you feel, how you play, all those different types of things on and off the field. And so what do you think?
Okay, well, one of the things about Arizona, they did look good, but they beat a team that I think had already played a game.
Yeah, I just said that with Stanford.
Yeah, so that's, at least that's a team that you would have thought that would have picked it up a little bit after their opening game. So that was nice. I don't expect that much from them, but Fafita, hopefully they have something coming. Just seeing K-State that low, but there's something, and you mentioned this even after the game against Iowa State and Ireland, there's something missing there, and there's a lot of grumbling. I don't know about if that means they're the 15th team, but at least far from what you've seen as far as the evidence. You're being honest. I know that's what you do.
Hey, if we're incorporating vibes, theirs are about as low as anybody's right now. Doesn't mean they can't get better in a hurry, and maybe they do. I have faith that K-State's not going to be at 15 or in that same grouping when we get to the end of the season. But, man, what a story that would be if they are. So there are the first four now, 12 through 9. Bang. Thank you.
That was very magical.
It's perfect, guys, by the way. I think this all worked out really nicely. So thank you for the producers behind the scenes helping make this happen for all of us.
You mean Brandon, Garrett, and Andrew?
Yes, Brandon, Garrett, and Andrew. Great job, guys. So this will be an every week thing, and looking forward to continuing this and kind of just playing around with it as we move forward. But for right now, at number 12, I've got Cincinnati. Respectable loss to Nebraska. I think what was most shocking to me was just how bad the offense looked and how bad Brendan Sorsby looked and just the complete lack of an ability to pass the football. And part of it was Sorsby, who came into the season with as much hype as a Big 12 quarterback as most of the rest of them. I mean, he was a guy that maybe wasn't the first, second, or third, the Rocco Beck, Avery Johnson, Sawyer Robertson type guy that you mentioned right away. But eventually, between those guys and a Josh Hoover and a Jalen Daniels, you eventually get around to Brendan Sorsby, but he did not look like he belonged in that grouping. And really the Cincinnati offense in the passing sense was leaving a lot to be desired against the Huskers. I mean, that's partially Nebraska's defense, but I also felt like they didn't have guys fighting for the football. The interception at the end was part Sorsby, part wide receiver. So there's a lot to clean up there. I think there is something on defense to help them win some games this year. But for right now, they're at number 12. At number 11, got Willie Fritz and the Houston Cougars. Nice first game out of the gates for them. Nothing too crazy. No crazy tough opponent. They just handled their business. Connor Wegman looked good. I think the defense is going to be really tough for Houston, as is par for the course for Willie Fritz and into some cases the Cougars as well. But I think they're going to be a really solid team, and I'm putting them for right now at number 11 until we see a bit more.
And that's without Shield Wood, right?
Yeah, I think the defense is going to be fine.
Okay.
At number 10, West Virginia. They got pinged a little bit for all of the damn turnovers. They got to clean that up, obviously. But if you're going off of vibes, man, there are a lot of happy folks in Morgantown right now that love that Rich Rod's back. The vibes are back. The feeling that this is the guy that knows how to make West Virginia successful. I think that plays into having them maybe over some of the others that others might debate they should be above or not, but got to win right out of the gates. It's impossible to ignore the positives so far that Rich Rod's return has brought. I think Nico Marchiol's got a lot of promise, and they've got some good, talented players now. It was Robert Morris, so I'm not going too crazy. And again, they did not play the cleanest of games against an opponent like a Robert Morris, but the vibes, like I said, just the general feel, the mojo, if you will, which is a big part of the reason why I use that term. I think they've got some good mojo, and they will be at Ohio this weekend. So we'll see how that goes. And then Pitt. So looking forward to how these schedules ramp up, and that'll be able to help us differentiate these teams. But so far, so good, but some definite things to clean up for West Virginia. And then Colorado at number 9. I think Dion and company talk about things to clean up. Caden Salter wasn't very good. He played timid. He was maybe trying to throw too much instead of just relying more on what his major weapon is, and that is his legs. Obviously, a lot of complaints about Pat Shurmur and the offensive play calling. And for a team that still prides itself on having a pretty respectable defense, which, people can debate or not, but they got absolutely gashed last week by Haynes King and Georgia Tech. Now, I think the Yellow Jackets and Haynes King are going to run on a lot of people, but there were a lot of red flags that popped up for Colorado last week. So now we know Juju Lewis is going to be seeing some time, which made the fans happy, but he's also just a freshman. Now, maybe he's the next great phenom in this sport, and if so, then Colorado will be rocketing up this list. But based off of just the total package, a loss, the way the loss looked, and a lot of question marks coming out of that, I'm going to put Colorado at number 9, and I feel like that might be a little high for some people. So there we go with the first half of the list.
Okay, Colorado's too high, in my opinion.
Fair.
And here's why. Not just going to disagree. It's not disagreeing. It's just my analysis. They played at home, gave up over 300 yards rushing.
I get it.
And you mentioned Georgia Tech. That's a team that's going to, with their coach, they want to beat you and bloody you. But they also had 3 turnovers, and they didn't take advantage of 3 turnovers at home. No. That's a bad sign for me. I'm not saying they should be a 12 or 15, whatever, but that just seems to be a little bit too high because of what they did not take advantage of with the turnovers and gave up 300 yards rushing.
No, I totally get that, and I know that's where there probably will be some complaints, but these are Mojo/power rankings, so I'm still taking Colorado to beat some of the teams. Now, look, I will throw them at 14, 15, 16 if they look again next week like they looked last week. There was a lot of bad, but I think the vibes or the mojo is still there. Now, I think you lose another game here in the next couple weeks, those are going to get thrown off entirely.
You're going to have them play Houston in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
So there you go. Yep.
So this is just based off 1 week. You did play a very quality team in Georgia Tech, but you're right. There was a lot to not like about that. I think this will maybe be the sticking point for a lot of people, but I also don't think that they are the bottom tier just yet, although you could make a case they should be closer to a Kansas State. So there is the first half of the list, and rolling through 8 through 4.
I was about to throw down if you did not have them at 8.
Yeah,
and I'm not so sure they're 9, but I would. I was about to throw down.
I still think they're better than West Virginia and everybody else on that list. That if they lined up today, I feel like Baylor, and that's not the end all be all here, but I do think Baylor's still a good football team. I think they could also very well be 0-2, and I will not spin a loss to SMU, even if it's a walk-off field goal at the end. If you're 0-2, you're 0-2. You're going to drop mightily on this list, but for right now, I respect the opponent they played. They put up a bunch of numbers on offense, and I don't think that's going to be going anywhere. The defense is obviously a question that they've got to answer, or else they're going to fall in a hurry on this list. But for right now, I've got Baylor at 8, and they've got another big prove-it game coming up this weekend. I think they're a solid team despite the 0-1 start. Kansas off to a hell of a start so far this season. A lot of excitement, I think, about what we've seen at this point. Now, not necessarily the toughest competition, but guess what this weekend is going to have for us? The Missouri Tigers on the road for Kansas. So they might shoot up like 5 spots. But for right now, I really like what I've seen. But you get a log jam of the teams at the top, and you can only put people certain places.
Yeah, this is when cholesterol takes over when it comes to the Big 12, the top 5 to 6 teams.
Yeah, so for right now, I've got Kansas at, I think, a very respectable 7, and this will sort itself out, but that's not a low number, I think. I like a lot of these teams ahead of them for right now. BYU, bludgeon Portland State. that didn't really teach us a lot, but it's hard to argue with just the momentum behind them. They're going to have to prove it with Bachmeier over the course of the season, but nice debut for him in the limited time that he had. There's a really stout football team with basically everything else off the field, on the field, despite the Jake Retzloff situation going in a pretty positive direction for them. I could see people wanting them higher, but it was Portland State, so I'm not going to get too over my skis about that just yet. And then Arizona State, the defending champs, at 5. I could see where I really did debate on them and BYU for this spot. Some of this is me just giving Arizona State the benefit of the doubt about not looking the best in week number 1, but they still have Sam Levitt. Yes, there are questions, but I still feel like they're one of the top 5 football programs on the field and certainly overall big picture in the league right now. So I put Arizona State at number 5.
BYU just destroyed Portland State. You'd expect them to do that, but I saw what the Portland State coach said after the game about how impressed he was with Bachmeier.
Oh, they looked great.
Yeah. They when will they get tested? They have Stanford next, at East Carolina, then on the road against Colorado.
We'll see. I mean, Colorado might be 15 or 14 on here.
West Virginia at home.
I mean, yeah, possibly.
And then at Arizona. I mean, they might. I could come back to haunt me. It's on video. Well, they might coast to like straight to 6-0 without getting tested.
Here's part of what came into my mind when we talk about that Portland State victory. What did Portland State do the week prior?
Well, you don't have to get me to start thinking that far back. I can't remember a damn thing.
They lost 42-0 to Tarleton. So
hey,
they've been outscored.
Hey,
111-0 in the first 2 weeks. So I'm not going crazy over Portland State, but I think BYU's very good. For right now, though, I'm keeping them just outside the top 5, but they seem like a team that's poised to move up very quickly.
It's very nice of you, Garrett. We had Todd Whitten on, Tarleton State. No, I get what you're saying, but you're right. They got hammered. They got 111-0.
Yes.
Is the scores between their 2 opponents they've lost to. All right, there we go.
Let's get into the top 4 here and roll this thing on out. At number 4, I've got Texas Tech. Handled their business. The Baron Morton injury was kind of a curveball that you weren't necessarily expecting or certainly weren't hoping for. I think that seems to be a pretty positive prognosis as of right now, but definitely something to keep your eyes on. I know that you could have them higher, especially if you're counting off the field stuff. I mean, they just landed another 5-star earlier this week. If we were going simply off the field, they might be number 1, honestly. I'm poised to shoot them up these rankings, but I'm just not going to do it after beating up Arkansas Pine Bluff. So I'm very high on the Red Raiders. 4 is not a bad spot to be. And I think that if you're putting them any higher, then there is a case to be made depending on kind of how you do your rankings, which for me is a lot based on Mojo, and they've got some great Mojo going on right now. I just want to see a little bit more of the on the field before I put them over the top 3 who we saw some pretty good things from on the field so far. TCU, the nice win over North Carolina. That was a team that I don't really think could be considered a sleeper, but I guess they were in the sense that they were not really the first 5 or so names that were rattled off this offseason. It was always Baylor, Texas Tech, Arizona State, even a BYU, a Utah resurgence, and TCU. So I feel like they kind of got disrespected a little bit, not just with the North Carolina buildup, but just kind of in general. And when you have a quarterback like Josh Hoover and you recruit as well as they have typically, I think they are a very sturdy number 3 after blowing out the Tar Heels. Although I'm not putting too much stock into that because North Carolina might be boo-boo, but it's still going out and playing North Carolina on the road on a Monday night with all that fanfare and just shoving it right down their throats. So going off Mojo, they might actually deserve to be number 1. Yeah. At number 2, Utah looked like a buzzsaw. I don't think UCLA is very good either, but again, on the road, not even a big crowd to play in front of. Your crowd was the majority of the crowd in Los Angeles on Saturday night, but they looked really, really good. Only question I really have about them is beyond their incredible offensive line and their super sturdy defense, can they keep Devin Dampier healthy? If they can, then I think the sky is the limit for them. But I do think he needs to be careful and protect himself. And yeah, you got to use his legs, but they just need to protect him. And so long as they do, then things would or should go pretty well for Utah. So I have them at number 2. And then at number 1, the Iowa State Cyclones have just been thoroughly impressed by Matt Campbell and company. Rocco Beck's played great. I don't think there's a lot of weaknesses with this team. I think to go out to Ireland and play Kansas State in a close, tight ball game, but to get a big win like that, and then to turn around and play a team that could have been your hangover game like it was for a Kansas State, or maybe that's just Kansas State the rest of the year. But to turn around and beat a very respectable FCS program and not leave any doubt about the fact that you just mowed through them, I think was super impressive. So they've been lights out for the first couple of weeks.
Does that mean all the Utah Twitter feeds are starting to light up again? Are they?
I'm sure there probably are some.
Yeah.
Some say it's only a handful of people that are making all the noise, but I don't know. I think Utah fans are pretty happy by what they saw, but I know Iowa State fans are very happy with what they've seen up to this point as well. And I think with that K-State win, even though that'll be measured certain ways moving forward, I've just been super impressed by Iowa State. They were the team that I mentioned there at the beginning of the year as far as who could be some Big 12 sleeper picks or who would you lean towards. And I said that K-State Iowa State winner, I'm putting them in the Big 12 title game. And that was Iowa State, and I'm rolling with the Cyclones. I'm a believer in what they've got going on right now. I'm a believer in Rocco Becht, and I think they are, as of right now, the team with the most mojo in the Big 12. So there you go. The first edition of the Big 12 Mojo rankings. We'll do this every week, and hopefully you throw trash at me or tell me how great I am.
I'm going to read some of the.
But regardless,
there's one thing I want to say.
But regardless, I appreciate everybody for your opinions, whether we agree or not. And this is going to be a little fun thing we do every week.
Can you tell he loves college football? Just unbelievable passion. Well done. Now, we need to put a dragon emoji on the list. We got to get that done. I just sent you guys an email. That's from the chat room. Put a big old dragon. He's known as the dragon because he's got that smoke, and literally. And then also he's a true serum, no nonsense, doesn't give a damn. He just says it.
Well, I give a damn. I'll be respectful, but I'm also not going to be afraid.
You're a hateful person. You're a very hateful person when it comes to your. No, I'm just kidding. That's kidding. People in the chat freaking love Craig, and so do people who are watching the show. Now, here's some others. Well, I've got the top four, maybe not in the same order, from Chris Bartles, Kim Coulter, Arizona State squeaked by Northern Illinois. That's embarrassing. But it's not hangover is what Sean said about Kansas State.
But it's not. But see, if we do it's just about the week in and week out. Like, it's definitely going to be that. But I don't think Arizona State's a bad football team just based off that first game. I need to see more than just a close contest. Before I go, well, they're the NFL quarterback and that head coach who was like the rookie of the year in college football, basically, and that incredible first-round NFL wide receiver. Like, it did not look good, and I do have that in mind. Believe me, that's in mind when we move forward. But for right now, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
And they're fighting winning the Big 12 curse.
Yeah.
About what happens sometimes the next year.
But Kenny Dillingham would be the first to tell you that. I'm sure he saw this, he would say they should be at like 10 or something because he was not happy with that performance.
He's going to play a little bit of that message to his team through the media. You're right. From Bobby B's, the fist pump, three dragon emojis. Well done. Let's see here. Kansas and BYU maybe a little high from Paxton. In the Big 12, y'all have already started, right? Okay, that's okay. I'm just looking at them. All right, here's one. No, I think for the most part, everybody likes what they saw. I think for the most part, they like.
And if they don't, that's fine. It's just the segment we're doing anyway.
We love
so
Craig. He shoots straight, doesn't sugarcoat.
I appreciate it, Chat. Thank you very much, and we'll be doing this every week, like I said. So appreciate the good, the bad. I don't care if you disagree. We'll agree to disagree.
Yep.
It's not anything personal for anybody, but I know people get passionate. So I think that Colorado could very deservedly be lower, but for right now, giving them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt versus some of those below them. And I have an explanation, at least, for why I have everybody where I do. So hit me with it in the comments section, and just please hit that like and subscribe button.
Yeah, and I'll give you a cell phone number if you ask me in the chat room. By the way, from Amy, the state of Utah getting its first Buc-ee's. I just wanted to throw that in there randomly.
Seems like everything's
doing well. Craig, for 2028 for president. Look, Utah going to be a try. Okay, so good job. Thank you very much. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Well done on the graphics. We'll add the dragon emoji by sometime next week. So here we go. Coming up, Paul Catalina, top 5. Andrew Valade's poll results and a couple of college or football quizzes. That's next. This is 365 Sports.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome in. Paul Catalina's Top 5 brought to you by Flag and Anthem. That promo code is 365 Sports. You'll get a discount at checkout. These are conclusions that I will jump to. I know yesterday I told you not to overreact to things. Well, now I'm jumping to conclusions. Number 5, Deshaun Foster is out of his depths. I need no more evidence than these 3 things. 1, he won't let his players do interviews because he thinks that will give away the game plan. You lost by 30 points to Utah without that. So I don't know that you could have lost by more if you just let Nico Iamaleava be interviewed before the game. Hey, Nico, how you feeling? You happy to be in UCLA? Those kind of things. How's the running game coming? Left guard. Most of it's pretty innocuous. Again, it's not a congressional hearing. 2, you had a quarterback in Joey Aguilar who looks pretty good and had huge numbers at Appalachian State, went through the spring, and then because a former recruiting darling decided he wanted to come back home, you said, you know what? You go on, Joey Aguilar. We're going to take Nico. Well, that didn't work out. 3, Joey Aguilar was badass on Saturday and has something to play for. You kind of shoved the guy out the door on his way up and accepted a guy on his way down. And I know that this is humble pie that sometimes you have to eat, but if Nico Iamaleava's reason for transferring was he wanted what he felt was a better chance to get drafted higher, then going to UCLA right now is not really the way to do that. So you should have been like, well, maybe it's not for us. Just saying. That's a conclusion I'll jump to. Number 4, I know that was long-winded. FSU will hang in the ACC race. They've got talent. They've got strength up front. They're really creative on defense. They made great coordinator hires with Gus Malzahn and Tony White. Thomas Castellanos will keep them in games. Now, are they going to win the ACC? I need to see a whole lot more, particularly when they play Virginia in 3 weeks and when they play Miami right after that. After the first 5 games, you'll be able to know if this is a team that's going to really hang in the race or be one of those teams on the outside that needs help to stay in it. But I certainly think that they have the talent to be in the top 3 or 4 in the league and hang all year long. We'll see. Like I said, just 1 game. Number 3, Texas A&M has solved its wide receiver problem. I would chisel that in stone. Look, they have guys that didn't hardly get the ball like Terry Bussey and others down the roster. They didn't really run the ball all that much the other day, but Mario Craver, pictured here, and KC Concepcion have fixed that issue. Marcel Reed's passing mechanics look a whole lot better, and this is a team that can probably beat you 2 ways, and it's a little bit scarier in the SEC now that they have real SEC playmakers on the outside. I think everybody in College Station is going to love these 2 guys. Number 2, Tennessee won the QB trade. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but Nico's got a long way to go. He doesn't have near as much talent around him at UCLA as Joey Aguilar does at Tennessee, so it's not a completely fair comparison, but Joey Aguilar has something to prove, and that was rough for UCLA against Utah on Saturday night. And number 1, sticking with that theme, Utah is a problem. Devin Dampier, I've been talking him up all summer. Devin, thank you. It's very rare that pundits like myself get proven right so fast. But I thank you, sir. You have a great offensive line. You're going to have a very fun offense. I cannot wait to watch Utah more. And that's not something we said for the last couple years. Super excited to watch the Utes every night. My apologies to our BYU fans. Just how it is. I mean, you saw him. You saw him. He's unbelievable. You know what else is unbelievable? The numbers that you have put on the polls that I have nothing to do with, because guess what? I haven't been on the show all day until now.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Paul's in Nashville for the wedding of Rami, Amanda's brother. Here we go, the polls, and we got a couple of things after it today. Andrew Valade, is Ohio State's number 1 ranking deserved? I kind of went back and forth because it's always too early to tell, but absolutely, in my opinion, the real deal, but too early to crown them. I'm not crowning them, but is the number 1 ranking deserved? Absolutely, in my opinion. 38% say a little bit early, and I can agree with that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's other team is number 1. I don't know, maybe who would you put there?
LSU.
LSU is the one that comes to mind for me, and I would have been fine had we seen them at number 1. But, yeah, I think Ohio State beating the number 1 team in the country and doing so in probably one of the ugliest big-time games we could have had. I mean, as far as a nation that loves offense getting fed a 14-7 game where it wasn't even that high scoring until it was practically over, was definitely a different menu item than we're used to ordering for our American football these days. So that was a throwback, but Ohio State emerged on the other side of it, the victor. And that was it's a massive win to beat a team that was hyped up as Texas. So yeah, I think it's fair to say, and they're absolutely one of the handful of teams in the country that you say can go look at anybody else in the eye and say, we have as much talent, if not more than you. And there's only maybe a handful that could say that or have that argument, them, Texas, and then, we can debate on Georgia and a couple of others, but Ohio State certainly with that win and what they have on that roster, I think that's a very fair number 1 after a week.
I thought Julian Sayin took care of business. He had the big throw that was the long touchdown. And I just thought he took care of business. And there were probably questions about how he would perform. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't flawless, but I think that can only help him moving forward. Next poll. Do you support NFL MVPs wearing gold shield patches on their uniforms? 47% say they don't care. And then it's kind of split out after that. Love it. Yeah. And hate it. I don't care if they have the gold patch or not. That just is not me, but 47%, I guess I'm in the majority here.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I could see where a lot of people just don't really have a strong opinion on it. Maybe that'd be as much of a way to put it as no opinion, I guess. But yeah, the same thing, splitting hairs. I think don't care sounds a lot more like I don't care. Whereas you're like, I don't really have an opinion on that. So I'm sure it's a little mix of both for those 47%, the overwhelming majority. I think it's a cool deal. I mean, they're doing it to acknowledge their award winners. And I didn't know really what to expect when they started doing the captaincies a few years ago. And if they removed them and we started watching tomorrow night and that wasn't there, I wouldn't probably notice for a good long while, if ever. But I do think they add a little something cool as far as just acknowledging those who have won big-time accolades and awards or have been voted captains, and to see the progress on the jerseys as they fill up a gold star for every year. I think that's kind of a cool, unique thing that they've done. So this is in line with that as well, and very subtle and not all that noticeable, really, unless you know about it. So not really a big deal, but cool for those that get to celebrate those accolades.
Next, we have quizzes. Who was the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 5,000 yards in a single season? I'm going to say Dan Marino is my pick at A.
Google tells me that it is. No, I have no earthly idea. I'm not a big stat historian, so Dan Marino sounds fine, but for some reason I feel like it's somebody else.
Peyton Manning. Andrew, is there a buzzer? Like,
Yep, there you go.
Dan Marino. His rookie year, was it not? I mean, when he went nuts.
And known as the nicest guy in football. Today is also opposite day.
Yeah. But Paul, we've discussed this. He's tried to get Dan Marino at Radio Row. He's unapproachable. Some guys are. All right. Which school has produced the most number one overall picks in the NFL? I'm going to say, I don't know if it's like I like the letter A. I'm tempted by USC. I'm going to say Notre Dame.
All right. Oklahoma had a hell of a run here recently, but I don't really recall, and I know a lot of their history, but I don't know exactly where in the pecking order of the NFL top draft picks. But you had, Baker and Kyler, for example, here recently. I think I'm going USC, though.
All right. They, of course, unbelievable. USC, Craig got it.
Trivia master.
Leads the number
one. I want that on the
picks.
Chiron underneath me.
Caleb Williams allowed them to take the lead. Georgia and Notre Dame and Oklahoma each have, I misread it. That's why I voted differently. Number one overall pick. I thought it was first round picks. That's my fault. And USC gets that nod. Good for them. Caleb Williams gives them the edge over the others. Good job, Andrew. I like it. I want a button. Like a big X, like you see in the game.
I don't want to do the wacky FM DJ thing, but I could definitely hit a little soundboard, a little buzzer here and there, or like a little breaking news teaser. Yeah. I think I could handle that. But
we're right, it's like a little
I don't want to
chime.
do like the boing and like all the fart noises and all that other juvenile stuff. I mean, not at this point in life, at least.
I don't care if we're right. I want to know when we're wrong. I want that big X to go on the screen and like yell at us. All right, Brandon, great stuff today. I will be out tomorrow. I got a high school football game in the Austin area. Craig will be with Garrett along with Brandon and Andrew. I'll be back on Friday. We'll know more about the NFL season. We'll head into another college football season. For Craig Smoak and our great sponsors, for those of you who watch us every single day or whenever you can, thank you for that. Good night on 365 Sports.